I was cursed by someone to be immortal. But it wasn't true longevity. Instead, I would be reincarnated with my memories each time. However, I could only be reincarnated as my own descendant. This led to me being reborn as my own grandson multiple times. Facing the man before me, I didn't know whether to call him my son or my father. I grew tired of this cycle. I tried to make each of my lives last longer to escape the pain, but in doing so, I discovered a shocking secret. One could cultivate immortality in this world. However, my life in this generation was already coming to an end. But this time, I no longer feared the cycle. Instead, I was filled with anticipation for my next rebirth. And so, I became my grandson's son. With the help of my past life's memories, I advanced to the Shantian warrior realm by the age of 30. Unfortunately, all it did was strengthen my body. I eagerly sought the path of cultivation, only to learn that one must possess a spiritual root. Only cultivator families could produce descendants with spiritual roots, while mortals were destined to remain mortals for generations. Unwilling to accept this, I came up with a bold idea. I would marry a child from a cultivator family, allowing my own family to produce a spiritual root. That way, I could use the curse of rebirth to embark on the path of cultivation. And so, I schemed and plotted. I not only offered up half of my family's fortune, but also willingly signed a 30-year indenture contract. Only then did the Shen cultivator family agree to let their daughter marry my eldest grandson, Chen Mingyuan. By then, my lifespan was also nearing its end. So I handed over the entire family to my eldest grandson. It turned out, after this reincarnation, I was already the 11th generation of the Chen family. In this life, my name was Chen Huaian. But not only had the Chen family not declined, it had grown into a large clan with over 1,000 members. The family's businesses were spread throughout Guangzhou, and we were a renowned martial arts family. I walked to the end of the desk. In front of a mirror, reflected in it was a 6-foot-tall young man with a heroic air. This should be enough to attract a young lady from a cultivator family. The goal of this life is to marry one, or even several, women from cultivator families. In my memory, the Chen family still hadn't produced a single descendant with a spiritual root. I swore to have as many children as possible. If I was unlucky and still couldn't produce an heir with a spiritual root, then, even though I'd be reincarnated, the martial arts experience I'd gained in this life would not be forgotten. With my martial arts experience, I quickly became the young master of the family, and at only 18 years old, I reached the level of a first-rate warrior. After extensive inquiries, I discovered traces of cultivators. 50 lies south of Muling City, there was a mysterious gorge called Fangyan Valley. This place was perpetually shrouded in thick fog. Farmers often saw people moving about in the valley, and occasionally, they would even see immortals flying down from the sky into the valley. It was highly likely that this was the residence of the Shen cultivator family. And so, I took over an old perfume shop in Muling City and launched a new type of product called Perfume. As soon as it was released, it was bought out completely. The knowledge about perfume had mysteriously appeared in my mind. I don't remember where I learned it from, but I knew that this was something women would definitely love. Compared to traditional incense powder, perfume was far superior. I was confident it could attract the attention of female cultivators. 3 days later, an old perfume shop in Muling City, Zhenxiangguan, quietly changed owners. 10 days later, Zhenxiangguan launched a new product called Perfume. The debut of Perfume quickly caused a sensation. All the female customers who tried it were captivated. However, very few female customers could afford Perfume. It was simply too expensive. A small bottle cost 20 taels of silver. Few women could resist the allure of perfume. If there was any difference between women from cultivator families and mortal women, 3 words were enough to describe it: money is no object. Therefore, I deliberately set the price extremely high, to filter for my target individuals. A month later, the new manager of Zhenxiangguan, Chen San, was reporting the situation to me. Targets number 1 and 2 have recently come to buy Perfume for the 3rd time. Both claim their surname is Shen. I believe these 2 are very likely from the Shen family. These 2 women treat silver like it's nothing. Their spending is shockingly lavish every time they visit. They don't leave until they've bought out all the perfume. Hearing this, I felt the time was about right. I decided to begin the second step of my plan. The next time they release the news about the new type of perfume. 3 days later, A luxurious carriage pulled by 4 tall horses slowly stopped in front of Zhengxiangguan. 2 young maidens in the prime of their youth stepped out of the carriage. One was dressed in red, with an oval face and delicate features. The other wore a sky blue dress, had a voluptuous figure, and a cold, stunning face. Chen San was right. Both of these women were from the Shen family of Fangyan Valley. The one in red was named Shen Yuyan, and the one in the blue dress was Shen Yuqi. They were half-sisters with the same father, with Shen Yuyan taking the lead. They insisted on buying perfume the moment they entered. Chen San immediately cupped his fists in a salute. My deepest apologies, esteemed guests. The shop's perfume has just sold out. We are temporarily out of stock. Shen Yuqi had a short temper. Her willow-like eyebrows shot up. Shopkeeper, we're not short on silver. Don't you try to fool me. Is it really sold out? Absolutely. I, Chen, dare to swear it on my life. However, what Shen Yuqi immediately interjected. Chen San deliberately hesitated for a moment, waiting until the two were about to lose their patience, before saying, the shop actually has another kind of perfume, one that is unique in all the world. However, it is not for sale. It's not for sale. There's nothing in this world that's not for sale. Only the question of whether there's enough silver. Shopkeeper, name your price. Miss, you've wronged this old man. My young master repeatedly instructed me that this type of perfume is a gift for a fated person and cannot be sold. A woman's curiosity can sometimes be greater than a cat's. Shen Yuqi immediately pressed. Who is your young master? And why would he say such a thing? My young master hails from the Chen family of Nanyang. He is exceptionally intelligent, skilled in both literature and martial arts. A true prodigy. Shen Yuyan wasn't concerned. How could a mere mortal compare to a cultivator? Your young master said it's only for a fated person. Do the two of us look like them? You're making things difficult for this old man. Esteemed guest, how would I know who the fated person my master speaks of is? Stop being so mysterious. Where is your young master? Take us to see him. A quarter of an hour later, the group arrived at an exquisite and elegant courtyard. Before they even entered the courtyard gate, the Shen sisters heard the sound of a zither coming from the backyard. At times, the melody soared with a natural grace, evoking towering mountains. At other times, it was gentle and winding, flowing like water with endless meaning. The two of them couldn't help but become immersed in the music. After a while, the zither music gradually faded, and they awoke as if from a dream, feeling a sense of loss. Quickly, take us to see your young master, Shen Yuqi urged, impatiently. Although Shen Yuyan didn't speak, her eager expression revealed her own thoughts. After passing through the front hall and a corridor, the group turned into a garden with a rockery and flowing water. In the center of the garden, under an octagonal pavilion, a young man with a face like Guan Yu, eyes as bright as stars, and an ethereal air, dressed in white, sat behind a zither table, slowly tuning an ancient zither. The grand scheme I had painstakingly laid out for the Shen sisters was showing remarkable results from the very beginning. What young maiden in the bloom of youth doesn't dream of love? Even though they knew the person before them was immortal, the two sisters couldn't help but feel a stir in their hearts. With a slight pause, I, Chen, asked, Shopkeeper Chen, who are these people? Why did you bring them to see me, as planned? Chen San explained their purpose for coming in smoothly, brought up the topic of the perfume and the fated person. After listening, I finally revealed a smile, my attitude becoming gentler. I pointed to the cushions by the zither table and said, Please, have a seat. Esteemed guests, please, have a seat. Shen Yuyan was very direct. We came today for that one-of-a-kind perfume. You mentioned it was only for a fated person. What exactly did you mean by that? What did you mean? I remained silent for a moment. Then, in a low voice, I told them a poignant love story. It was adapted from famous stories from my past life, like the Magpie Bridge meeting and the tale of Liang Shanbo and Zhu Ying Tai. It was about a poor young man who fell in love with a wealthy young lady, but they were ultimately torn apart. The young man, driven by grief, mastered martial arts and became a grandmaster, while the young lady was forced to marry into a powerful family and died of sorrow. Before she died, he created a unique perfume and named it Golden Wind, Jade Dew. At this point, I recited golden, wind, and jade dew. A single meeting surpasses countless encounters in the mortal world. Tender feelings like water. A joyous date like a dream. How can one bear to return on the magpie bridge path? If two hearts are meant for each other for eternity, why must they be together day and night? The tender, poetic sentiment contained in the verses instantly touched the hearts of the innocent young women. Shen Yuqi's eyes welled with tears, moved to the point of crying. Although Shen Yuyan's expression was calm, her gaze had softened considerably. I deliberately sighed. Ask the world, what is love? That it makes one promise life and death, golden wind. Jade dew is only for those who truly understand love. Young ladies, do you consider yourselves to be the fated ones? The two sisters looked at each other and both shook their heads. They were born into a cultivator family and had never experienced what love was. Within the clan, all marriages were arranged by the elders. Isihil, showing my regret. What a pity. It seems golden wind jade dew is not fated for you two. Shen Yuqi started to speak but was stopped by a tug from Shen Yuyan and had to close her mouth. Shen Yuyan quickly regained her composure. Young master, we have already gained much from hearing such a moving story. Since we are not fated for it, we won't insist. However, I have a bold request. Would you be willing to part with the perfume formula? Well, now, I admit, I had designs on your identities, but you two are no saints either. To be eyeing my formula, an idea sparked in my mind, and I decisively shook my head. The perfume formula was left by my ancestors. It cannot be passed on to outsiders. Suddenly, a murderous aura came from outside the pavilion. The middle-aged carriage driver abruptly looked up, his eyes filled with killing intent. How rude! Stand down. Shen Yuyan commanded, dismissing the driver. She turned to me apologetically. My servant was impolite. I hope you weren't alarmed. Young master. I smiled faintly. It's nothing. A mere half-step Xiantian warrior is no match for me. It's just that when negotiations fail, you resort to force. This way of handling things can easily bring disaster upon your family. Just you, Shen. Yuqi interjected indignantly. Feeling offended, I shook my head with a calm expression. Of course, I alone am not enough. But this world is vast. There are too many people you cannot afford to offend. Even though your Shen family is a cultivator family, you are no exception. Shen Yuyan's expression changed. How do you know our background? Is it that hard to guess? To have a peak, half-step Xiantian master willingly act as a carriage driver. And for two young ladies with the surname Shen to be so divinely beautiful. Besides the cultivator, Shen family. Which other family in all of Ganzhou could fit these conditions? Shen Yuqi was delighted to hear this. A proud look on her face. No one had ever used divinely beautiful to describe them before. Shen Yuyan returned to the original topic. Young Master Chen, I am determined to have that perfume formula. Please, name your price. I quickly weighed my options. The true value of the perfume was likely far greater than I had imagined. But this was even more advantageous for me. The formula cannot be sold. But we can cooperate. How do we cooperate? Shen Yuyan's eyes lit up. The reason she was so insistent on the formula was simple: to earn spirit stones. On the surface, the Shen family was lofty and superior. But in the cultivation world, they were always at the bottom. Only slightly better than rogue cultivators. The entire Shen family had only 9 cultivators and relied solely on their spirit fields and materials to earn a few spirit stones. They lived a very frugal life. After trying the perfume, Shen Yuyan had keenly spotted a business opportunity. In the cultivation world, female cultivators had pills like the 100 fragrance pill to maintain their body fragrance, but at a price of 10 spirit stones per pill. Many chi refinement female cultivators were reluctant to buy them. For 1 spirit stone, they could buy a large bottle of perfume that would last a whole year. This was the business opportunity. Shen Yuyan had calculated that earning 80 to 100 spirit stones a year would be no problem, which was equivalent to 1/10 of the entire clan's annual income. Half an hour later, after a round of friendly bargaining, the two parties finally decided on a 30/70 split. With the deal successfully negotiated, I had also imperceptibly closed the distance with the Shen sisters, and that was the biggest goal of the day. Soon, a secret workshop within the Chen family's fortress was sealed off. A group of trusted clan members was sent in to mass-produce perfume. At the same time, using the excuse that the Shen sisters were inexperienced, I insisted on accompanying them. The three of us, in disguise, went in and out of various cultivator markets, selling large quantities of perfume. In the blink of an eye, 4 months passed. The three of them had made a fortune, far exceeding their most optimistic estimates. However, Shen Yuyan and Shen Yuqi were constantly gloomy, because that guy was right again. The perfume formula had been cracked by other cultivators. Compared to alchemy, making perfume was simply too easy. The months we spent together allowed my relationship with the Shen sisters to advance by leaps and bounds. The younger sister, Shen Yuqi, had fallen deeply in love with me, trapped in a whirlwind of romance, from which she couldn't escape. The reason for such rapid progress was not only due to my meticulous planning, but also to a secret of love. If she is innocent and naive, show her the splendors of the world. If her heart is full of vicissitude, take her to ride a carousel in a simple, elegant, and spacious room. Shen Yuyan was seriously counting the total number of spirit stones. A small mountain had already piled up on the table in front of her. Shen Yuqi suddenly complained impatiently. Yuyanji, stop counting. There are 854 spirit stones in total. You've counted it dozens of times already. 809. 810? Shen Yuyan ignored her. Anji said to give him 240. That's enough. As for the rest, he doesn't want it. Shen Yuyan stopped and looked directly at her sister. Huayanji said yesterday that the perfume business can't continue. He decided to give us the extra as compensation. I don't want his compensation. Besides, I want to make a few more runs. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Huayanji said. We've already attracted unwanted attention. If we continue, our lives will be in danger. Huayange. Huayange. You can't go 3 sentences without mentioning Huayange. Why don't you just marry him? Shen Yuqi's face instantly turned beet red. You've lost your mind. I'm not talking to you anymore. Just then, I walked in from outside and happened to hear that last sentence. I couldn't help but smile. What's all the fuss about? What are you? The box I was carrying was placed on the table. Huayange. What delicious thing did you make this time? Shen Yuqi ran over happily and curiously opened the stone box. It took me quite a bit of effort. It's called cake. Have a taste. I took out a piece of soft cake and brought it to her lips. She didn't resist at all. Her face filled with infatuation and love as she opened her mouth and took a bite. It's so delicious, Yuyanji. You should try some too. Compared to her excited younger sister, Shen Yuyan calmly took a piece of cake and began to eat. As she was eating, Shen Yuqi suddenly tattled. Huayange. Yuyanji hasn't given up. She still wants to go to the market. My expression changed slightly, and I looked at Shen Yuyan seriously. Is that true? Don't you know how dangerous that is? I just want to earn a little more, she retorted, her voice growing quieter and quieter. I shook my head, helplessly. Even if you wanted to, you can't continue. If I'm not mistaken, the people back in Fangyan Valley have already found us. The two sisters instantly panicked. After months of being together, my image as a flawless strategist had become deeply ingrained in their minds. But I just smiled. Don't panic. This is a good thing. I happen to have some business. In Fangyan Valley anyway. Huayange. You mustn't go to my home. My grandfather is very fierce. He might beat you to death. You should run away. My expression was calm. Why should I run? I haven't done anything wrong. Besides, if I don't go to Fangyan Valley, how can I propose to the Shen family? That sentence was like a thunderclap, leaving the sisters frozen on the spot. After a long moment, Shen Yuqi finally mustered the courage to ask with a hopeful expression. Huayange. Did you say you're going to propose? My gaze swept over the two sisters, and finally, I looked resolutely at Shen Yuqi and said in a deep voice, Yuqi, I want to marry you. Are you willing? I'm not talking to you anymore. Before she could finish her sentence, she covered her face in embarrassment and ran out of the room. Only the two of us were left in the room. Shen Yuyan lowered her head, silent, a hint of disappointment in her eyes, seeing her like this. I sighed silently. It was a pity. Shen Yuyan possessed a spiritual root and could never marry a mortal. 2 days later, the carriage stopped in front of Fangyan Valley. After getting out, Shen Yuyan handed me a storage talisman. Inside were 500 spirit stones. This was the betrothal gift I had prepared. The extra 260 spirit stones represented Shen Yuqi's feelings. After walking a few dozen steps along the path, the view suddenly opened up. Before me was a long, narrow piece of land, about a few hundred mu in area. A few steps away, a group of expressionless, middle-aged and elderly people were staring at me menacingly. The square-faced middle-aged man was named Shen Yuheng. He was Shen Yuyan and Shen Yuqi's father. Half a month ago, he received a 1,000-line message talisman. After reading its contents, he flew into a rage and rushed back to Fangyan Valley. No matter how urgent other matters were, nothing was more important than his precious daughters being stolen away. Shen Yiheng sized me up and barked, "Come with me." He gestured to the two sisters. They followed silently with bitter smiles. After walking for 3 or 4 li, the group arrived in front of a spacious and magnificent hall. At the head of the hall sat an unassuming little old man. His hair was graying, and he had a smile on his face. His eyes sizing me up and down. This person was the head of the Shen family. Shen Yuyan's grandfather, Shen Zongai, a cultivator. At the peak of the 9th level of chi refinement, on the surface, his attitude was the friendliest. But he was the one I was most wary of. No one knew what schemes were hidden behind that smiling expression. The atmosphere in the main hall was tense. My expression was calm, neither servile nor overbearing. I cupped my fists in a salute. Junior Chen Huayan greets the seniors of the Shen family. Shen Zonghai smiled. "Young man, why have you come to my Shen family? Today, Junior and your granddaughter fell in love at first sight. I have come to Fangyan Valley today to propose marriage." Shen Yiheng slammed his hand on the table and shot up, his hair and beard bristling with anger. "Sit down. Cultivation is about cultivating the mind. You're already in your decades, yet you still can't keep your composure. Tomorrow, go into seclusion in the back mountains. You are not to come out until you've reached the 6th level of chi refinement." After scolding his son, Shen Zonghai turned to look at me. "Young man, in the 900 years of my Shen family's history, we've had many situations like yours. Some have succeeded, but most have failed. Do you know? I am willing to hear your explanation. Because of benefits, a marriage with a mortal brings far fewer benefits than a marriage with another cultivator family. Can you bring my Shen family greater benefits?" Shen Zonghai was brazenly revealing the truest aspect of human nature in front of his entire clan. I was silent for a moment, then took out the storage talisman. "There are 500 spirit stones in here. Is that enough? Not enough," Shen Zonghai said without hesitation. But the other clan members were already showing their delight. 100 spirit stones was equivalent to nearly half of the clan's annual income. I took out a stack of paper from my robes. This contains the complete process for making perfume, as well as 12 different formulas. 3 of them are new types that have not yet appeared in the market. Shen Zonghai suddenly laughed. He take out a stack of paper from his storage bag, and, with a gentle flick, sent it flying to me. I opened it, and my heart sank. What was written on it was almost identical to what I held in my hand. The perfume workshop had clearly been under the Shen family's watch for a long time, and I had been completely unaware. In the cultivation world, one must never underestimate any cultivator family, especially those that were once glorious but have now fallen on hard times. "Young man, there shouldn't be any omissions in what's written here." "Right," I waved the formula in my hand. "Someone once said that benefit is the driving force behind all human action. To go to such great lengths to create the current situation, it surely isn't just to play a trick on me. Right, if you have any requests, please state them directly." Ha ha ha. "Very good. If the younger generation of my family had half your intelligence, I could die with my eyes closed." My heart skipped a beat. "Don't tell me. This old man really wants me to marry into his family." "Old Master Shen, my family has only had one son for 3 generations. If I remember correctly, in this generation of the Chen family, you are ranked 9th. My parents are both deceased. I must burn incense for them every year. You can do that, just the same in Fangyan Valley." I was at a loss for words, and could only be honest. "Old Master, I cannot marry into the Shen family." "Do you not want to marry my granddaughter?" No matter how he threatened or cajoled, I kept shaking my head. "In the end, Shen Zongai had to compromise. How about this? Let's make a gentleman's agreement. As long as you can advance to the Xiantian realm within 3 years, everything will be as you wish. If you can't, you will marry into the Shen family. Also, any of your and Yuchi's descendants who do not have a spiritual root can take your surname, but those with a spiritual root can only be named Shen. I immediately nodded. It's a deal. I estimated it would take me 2 years at most to reach the Xiantian realm. Shen Zonghai thought he had gotten the better end of the deal, but he didn't. No, I was a man with the accumulated experience of 3 lifetimes. 3 days later, I returned to the Chen family fortress and began my secluded cultivation. At the same time, with the support of a mysterious power, the Chen family quickly annexed several gangs in Ganzhou. A year later, relying on my experience of advancing to the Xiantian realm, I successfully converted all my Bihai True Qi into Xiantian True Qi. 6 months later, on the day of the Chen family's 9th young master's wedding, the entire city of Nanyang was in an uproar. The common people had never seen a single person's dowry stretch for 20 li. The Chen family was also incredibly generous, with over 1,000 tables in a continuous feast that lasted for a whole month. This grand wedding was talked about by the people of Nanyang for nearly 100 years. A year later, I had my first son. Unfortunately, he had no spiritual root. Another year later, a lovely daughter was born. Still, no spiritual root. I wasn't discouraged and continued my great undertaking in the Chen family fortress. On a certain night in the 3rd year, Shen Yuyan, who had grown even more elegant, suddenly came to find me. The first thing she said was, "I'm getting married." I was silent for a moment. "Congratulations. A rogue cultivator at the 6th level of Qi refinement is willing to marry into the Shen family. My father has agreed. The wedding is next month, on an auspicious day." Her gaze lingered on me for a long time, but her tone was as calm as if she were talking about someone else's business. "Congratulations." I didn't know what to say, so I just repeated myself. "You spineless man." She suddenly pushed me into the room and threw herself at me. "I want you." After a night of passion, at dawn, Shen Yuyan left alone. On the 8th day of the 9th month, an auspicious day, Fangyan Valley was decorated with red lanterns and streamers. Full of joy, with a calm expression, I watched Shen Yuyan and a shifty-eyed man bow to each other in their wedding ceremony. That night, Shen Yuqi, the mother of my 3 children, threw a huge tantrum for no reason. I had to say countless sweet things to calm her down. 15 years passed in a flash. On this day, in a room in the Chen family's rear courtyard, cries of pain could be heard. In the courtyard, I paced back and forth, my expression anxious. Over the years, Shen Yuqi had given me 7 children, although she swore each time that she would never have another. She would be pregnant again within 2 years. When I first married her, my purpose was very clear, but after more than a decade together, my feelings for her had deepened, and I had long since abandoned my utilitarian mindset. After another half an hour, a loud cry came from the delivery room. The weight on my heart was finally lifted. After a long while, a joyful figure carrying a swaddled baby walked out of the delivery room. Looking at the beautiful woman who approached me, I always felt a little uneasy. Ever since that shifty-eyed man died in an accident 8 years ago, Shen Yuyan had sought me out again. From that day on, the two of us began to meet in secret. Shen Yuyan placed the baby in my arms. Her expression, complex. "Look at this son of yours. Congratulations. Your wish has been fulfilled." My whole body trembled violently, my hand shaking so much I almost dropped the child. "I've already tested him. A 4-element spiritual root." Shen Yuyan nodded in confirmation. I was overjoyed. After so many years of hard work, the heavens had finally smiled upon me. Let's call our 8th son Chen Chenglei. That night, the Chen family fortress was tightly sealed. Carrier pigeons, bearing the great news, flew off in all directions. That night, the Chen family fortress was tightly sealed. Carrier pigeon, bearing the great news, flew off in all directions. Time flew by. A year later, my cultivation reached the peak of the Xiantian realm. Just then, the living room door was thrown open. My wife, Shen Yuqi, her face stained with tears, burst in a panic. "Husband, something terrible has happened. Our Shen family." She crashed. into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. I quickly comforted her. What happened? Tell me quickly. I'm here for you. Trembling, she handed me the 1000 LY message talisman. I opened it and read, my expression growing darker and darker until my face was ashen. It turned out that just one day ago, the Shen family's mortal enemy, the Golden Core Zhou family, had suddenly found Fangin Valley and trapped the dozens of Shen family members inside. To eradicate them completely, the Zhou family had sent 3 Foundation Establishment cultivators and many late-stage Qi refinement cultivators. The message from her grandfather was a last resort, hoping that Chen, Huayan and his family could escape quickly to prevent the Zhou family from coming after them. The Shen family had moved to Guangzhou over 60 years ago. Why were they found at this particular time? Soon, I figured out the reason. Over the past decade, the Shen family's income had greatly increased due to the perfume business. Half a year ago, they had spent a fortune, over 20,000 spirit stones, to buy a Foundation Establishment pill at an auction. The last ancestral artifact the Shen family sold to afford the pill, the Red Dragon Ring, was the direct cause of their clan's annihilation. A Golden Core cultivator from the Zhou family happened to be at the auction and recognized the Red Dragon Ring, which led to the shocking discovery that the remnants of the Shen family were hiding in the state of Liang. Husband. What do we do? Shen Yuqi was at a complete loss. The Shen family is doomed. The most urgent matter now is to save our own family. I was faced with a difficult choice. Of my 8 children, the eldest was 16, and the youngest had just turned 1. Zhou family. For this crime of annihilation, I, Chen, will repay you tenfold, if not in this life, then in the next, and the one after that. One day, I will make your Zhou family pay for this. Blood debt with blood. Thinking this, I gritted my teeth and made a cruel decision. To increase the chances of survival, my wife and I would flee with only our 8th son, Chen Chenglei. The other 7 children would be taken by close relatives and scattered as much as possible. After making the choice, I found the family head, Chen Hexing, and informed him of the situation. He acted swiftly, gathering 7 of the most trusted clan members. Within a quarter of an hour, all arrangements were made. 2 hours later, with a heart full of sorrow, I watched as the carriages carrying my children departed, each heading towards an unknown destination. Each of the 7 children carried a family token for future identification. I placed our 8th son in a sleeping bag, tied him securely to my back, and pulled my wife, who was staring blankly into the distance, onto a 1,000-li divine steed. I looked back at Chen Hexing, whose hair had suddenly turned completely white, and gave him a solemn nod. The 2,000-li steeds galloped away like flying swords. Half a year later, I brought my family of 3 to the vicinity of Tianzhu Mountain, where we lived in hiding under assumed names, and so, 23 years passed. Tianzhu Mountain was known as the axis of the heavens, the center of the world. It was also a paradise for rogue cultivators to gather cultivation resources for my 8th son. I soon became one of the hundreds of thousands of herb collectors on Tianzhu Mountain. The mountain was home to countless spiritual herbs, the most famous of which was the Zikqi Ji, the Chihuo Ji, which was over 500 years old and crimson like fire, was a main ingredient for refining the Foundation Establishment pill. The Zikqi Ji, which was over 1,000 years old, was a main ingredient for the core formation pill. All the major sects in the cultivation world had issued a standing mission to purchase Zikqi Ji without limit. A 500-year-old Chihuo Ji could be exchanged for 1 Foundation Establishment pill or a sect entrance token. Holders of the token, even if they had no spiritual root, could unconditionally join a sect. This kind of mission sparked the dreams of countless people to get rich and cultivate. For thousands of years, countless people have flocked to Tianzhu Mountain, climbing its cliffs and precipices, willing to risk their lives. Just as I was lost in thought, a shout suddenly came from above. "Shameless old thief, I've finally found you. Let's see where you run today." Looking up, I saw a burly man of about 40, his face filled with anger, riding a sword as wide as a door plank and diving towards me. I couldn't help but smile faintly and took a step closer to the edge of the cliff, facing the strong wind. I leaped into the air, free falling into the 10,000 Zhang abyss. After falling for about 10,000 meters, I spread my arms wide. 2 pieces of canvas extended from my arms and waist like wings, drastically reducing my descent speed. I finally landed, lightly, on a protruding rock. Without hesitation, I took a few quick steps, like a dragonfly skimming the water, and shot into the clouds, crossing several hundred zang in the air in an instant. After finding a crevice, I pressed against the wall, activated my breath-concealing art, and entered a state of suspended animation. The next moment, a thunderous roar came from the distance. Gongsun Sheng, the cloud-entering dragon, I'll remember you. Sooner or later, I'll catch you. When traveling the Jianghu, caution is paramount. I never use my real name. I always introduce myself as Gongsun Sheng, with the nickname Cloud-Entering Dragon. So what if I use the Cloud Dragon 9 transformations to trade for your 300-year-old green sapling? Was it necessary to chase me for 3 whole months? After hiding in the rock crevice for a whole day, I only poked my head out cautiously after nightfall. After more than 20 years of blood and turmoil, if I weren't extremely cautious, I would have died long ago in some nameless corner. A quarter of an hour later, I suddenly stopped. The cliff face below my feet was desolate in the night. Because of this, the massive, spherical flame floating nearly 1,000 zang away was particularly conspicuous. Was the Ziyang Sex Flame Talisman, which meant there was a temporary market nearby. That massive, spherical flame was particularly conspicuous. This was the Ziyang Sex Flame Talisman, which meant there was a temporary market nearby. After stepping onto the market platform, I saw a group of weather-beaten herb collectors gathered around a bonfire. Seeing me arrive, someone stood up silently. Haha. Gongsun, you old thief. You still dare to show your face, looking at the ferocious expression of Hua Xuanwu. I cursed my bad luck. Hua Xuanwu was originally a knight-errant in the Jianghu. Later, he met a master who taught him a qi refinement technique. He had extremely high talent, reaching the 6th level of qi refinement in 20 years. But he was obsessed with martial arts and loved collecting peerless techniques. 3 months ago, at a market, I used the Cloud Dragon 9 transformations to trade for a green sapling from him. Later, he discovered he had been tricked and has been hunting me down ever since. He's been hunting me down ever since. Don't you see where you are? Hearing this, his expression faltered, and he actually didn't dare to make a move. Tianzhu Mountain has several taboos, one of which is that you must never fight at a market. I've been around Tianzu Mountain for over 20 years, and although I'm not even a cultivator, my reputation is quite well known. Incredibly bold, ruthless swordsmanship, #1 in flight, a Xiantian warrior ambushing a late-stage qi refinement cultivator, and escaping from a Foundation establishment cultivator are all labels associated with me. The next day, the market officially began. I laid out the items from my bag: 300-year-old pig bones, 1 green sapling, 2 white saplings, a roll of Chuanshan beast hide, a small bronze knife, and a blue Dharma robe. After some hesitation, I took out a round jade pendant that faintly glowed with white light from my robes. A first-tier protective jade pendant, someone exclaimed. I'm only trading for spirit pills that increase cultivation, like Yellow Fang pills or Star Jade powder. I raised my voice. Huo Xuanwu squatted opposite me, staring intently at me. The Cloud Dragon 9. Transformations. What other ultimate moves does it have, Brother Huo? Without a body as light as a swallow, an ordinary person, even if they practice to the peak, can at most take a step of 7 or 8. Zong. I'm telling you the truth. Just as I was about to persuade him further. At most, a step of 7 or 8 zang. I'm telling you the truth. Just as I was about to persuade him further, my nose suddenly twitched. An extremely peculiar smell. Ever since I reached the limit of the Xiantian realm last year, my sense of smell has become exceptionally sensitive, able to distinguish scents in the air that even cultivators cannot detect. I used sound transmission to secretly warn Huo Xuanwu, listen to me and leave as soon as possible. Then, I quickly packed my things, stood up, and deliberately shouted at Huo Xuanwu, running into you today is my bad luck. I'm leaving. If you have the guts, come after me. However, the next second, I was thrown back violently. Someone has set up a barrier array outside. We can't get out. That Ziyang sect disciple suddenly said something strange. It's a bit early, but this will do. Be careful, I shouted. and threw myself backwards. A large swath of scorching red light grazed past my nose. The wave of fire was fierce, explosive, and extremely suffocating. Cries of alarm and the man's unrestrained laughter rang out at the same time. Earth boiling. Poison flame. He's not a Ziyang sect disciple, he's a demonic cultivator from the earthly fiend palace. This person's true identity was a true disciple of the earthly fiend palace. The demonic cultivator Fu Yanji. At the peak of qi refinement, he had killed and disguised himself as a Ziyang sect disciple in order to earn a few more foundation establishment pills. I rolled and dodged behind a boulder, quickly swallowing an antidote pill and activating my breath-concealing art to enter a state of suspended animation. Amidst a surge of Buddhist light, the bonfire transformed into an oily green flame beast. The spiritual power in everyone's bodies seemed to be suppressed, with less than 10% usable. Fu Yanji laughed maniacally, fireballs flying everywhere. He noticed me. You're quite alert. I had just released the spirit-scattering powder when you sensed it. Good thing I set up the array in advance. He flicked out a red thread that shot straight for my head. I crossed my hands, and a 3-foot-thick chi wall instantly formed. But it was cut through as easily as a hot knife through butter. With a bang, the white light from my protective jade pendant blocked the fatal blow. But the jade pendant cracked. Besides me, and Huo Xuanwu. All the other herb collectors were killed by Fu Yanji. Huo Xuanwu flew to my side. Gongsun, you old thief. You're a cunning one. Quickly, think of a way to escape. I can't die. My daughter is still waiting for me to come home. 7 or 8 fireballs smashed towards us. I used my ultimate movement technique, as fast as a teleport, to dodge the attack. But the ground was ablaze, the rocks about to melt, and there was nowhere to land. Just then, I suddenly had an idea. Do you have any water-based spells? Yes. A handful. Louder. Wherever I point. You. Smash it. Use your fastest speed and throw everything you have. Follow me. I pointed to a spot on the ground that had been burned to magma. Huo Xuanwu didn't hesitate, unleashing all his water-based spells. Water balls the size of vats, ice swords, and ice needles rained down on the scorching ground. The magma quickly cooled and solidified, cracking into countless fine fissures. I drew the 3-foot soft sword from my waist, infused it with Xiantian true qi, and struck with all my might. In just 2 seconds, the 3-foot thick ground was shattered into rubble. The fissure quickly grew longer and deeper. A 2 Zhang square area of ground collapsed with a roar. We fell with countless pieces of rubble into the 10,000 Zhang abyss. We're saved. An unwilling roar came from above. 7 or 8 giant flame beasts swooped down. A red thread flashed like lightning, shattering my defensive light shield and continuing towards my head. In that instant, in my vision, the red thread suddenly slowed down by a factor of 10. My right hand thrust out the soft sword with all its might, the tip accurately striking the flying sword. The Xiantian true qi exploded, and the impact caused my falling speed to increase dramatically. The thread shattered inch by inch, but in just a few breaths, I had fallen into the sea of clouds, relying on my flying wings. I blended into the clear, dark night and escaped without a trace. This kind of treasure hunting lifestyle continued for another dozen years. One day, dozen years. One day, while flying, I encountered a turbulent current in the sea of clouds. A turbulent current in the sea of clouds. It's a common, yet extremely dangerous weather phenomenon in Tanzu Mountain. After being swept in, my body completely lost control. I kept spinning and tumbling until my head jolted, and I passed out. When I woke up, I was completely dumbfounded. My surroundings were entirely shrouded in thick fog. The shaded side of Tanzu Mountain never sees the light of day. Never sees the light of day. It harbors vast, unexplored savage regions, serving as a paradise for spirit herbs and savage regions. It's a paradise for spirit herbs and demonic beasts, but also the burial ground for thousands of herb gatherers. It is known as the Death Treasure Land. The location I'm in is undoubtedly some corner on the shaded side of Tanzu Mountain. After escaping danger, I unknowingly climbed for several hundred zang. In just 2 short hours, I witnessed incredibly brutal and unrestrained slaughter. Without the divine sense of a foundation establishment cultivator, even a peak chi condensation cultivator would struggle to survive here. But soon, this foggy realm also revealed the true meaning of a treasure land. Half a day later, I climbed onto a slope recessed into the mountain wall. Over a dozen different rich herbal scents mixed together and wafted over. The strongest among them was the scent of the purple chi ling ji. My spirits were greatly lifted, and I carefully explored under the dead trees, in the bushes, and in the rock crevices. Blood arrow grass, Shilin Lingzi, swallow dragon fruit, heartless flower, golden seed. Stalks of highly valuable spirit herbs were growing there, each thick and sturdy with an extremely long medicinal age. Two zang away on my right. On a dead tree root grew a wash basin-sized, fiery red crimson fire Lingzi. I dashed over in a single stride. A hot sensation met my touch, confirming it without a doubt. The medicinal rings on its surface totaled exactly 800. The medicinal rings on its surface totaled exactly 831 rings. This meant its medicinal age exceeded 800 years, enough to exchange for a high-grade foundation establishment pill. A high-grade foundation establishment pill has a success rate of over 30%, while a low-grade one is less than 10%. It's guaranteed. This was the first thought that popped into my head. With this, Old 8 has practically stepped half a foot through the door of foundation establishment. Of course, he has to reach peak chi condensation first. Thinking of Old 8's usual behavior, I wished I could fly back and slap him twice in the face. What's so good about practicing martial arts? Isn't cultivating immortality? Better I've beaten him. I've scolded him. But this damn kid just won't listen. There were a ton of spirit herbs on the slope. Herbs over 100 years old were everywhere. And I even found 3 that were over 1,000 years old. I picked the 9 most valuable ones and packed them into my backpack. I also found another 680-year-old crimson fire Lingji. Just as I was busy, a bloody scent suddenly rolled in from the fog. I immediately rolled away and took cover. A blood-winged beast swooped down toward the bare slope. It was heavily injured. Yet its target was clear. It dug under the dead tree roots, swallowed some dark brown soil, and then flapped its wings and flew away. I carefully inspected the soil. It had a faint fragrance. A thought silently formed in my mind. Could this be the legendary medicinal primer? Legend has it that after spirit herbs naturally wither and die, they decay and weather over thousands of years, turning into medicinal soil. Over time, it produces components that can accelerate the growth of spirit herbs, a medicinal primer. An hour later, I dumped all the medicinal mud I collected into a clearing on the slope, and then planted the rare spirit herb seeds I brought with me. The layout of these spirit herbs is for my 1,000-year plan, ladder. I discovered another shocking thing. Buried beneath the slope was a massive tree root system. Most of it had withered and turned to mud. But beneath the slope was a massive tree root system. Most of it had withered and turned to mud, but a small portion was still alive, creating the unique ecological environment of this place. After leaving the slope, I began my long journey to find a way out. On Tanzu Mountain, as long as you climb horizontally, you'll eventually make it to the other side. I don't know how long it took, but I finally broke free from the death treasure land and saw the sun and the sea of clouds again. A month later, a furious roar echoed from the ancestral hall of the Chen family manor by the Lishui River. Get on your knees for your old man, I glared furiously at my disappointing son. Chen Chengle, who had a burly build but a delicate face, knelt down without hesitation. Dad, I know I was wrong. Wrong my ass. You've cultivated for decades. decades, and you're only at the 3rd level of chi condensation. Your wife, who has no spiritual root, is already at the 5th level. Did you secretly give the spirit origin pills to her again? The more I spoke, the angrier I got. I grabbed a rattan cane and started whipping him. Chen Chenglei was already at the Xiantian realm, with thick skin, and didn't seem to mind. As he was being beaten, he argued, "Father, I've never been able to sit still since I was a child. I fall asleep as soon as I start cultivating. The spirit origin pills are more useful for Ching Ching than for me." The Ching Ching he mentioned was named Huo Ching Ching. She was born with a byline, pseudo-spiritual root. Her father was none other than Huo Xuanwu. After Huo Xuanwu and I escaped with our lives, Huo Xuanwu was able to join the Ziyang sect because he had timely reported the matter of the Earthly Fiend Palace's demonic cultivator. He was taken in as a disciple by a Foundation Establishment sword cultivator. In just over a decade, he soared from the 6th level of chi refinement to the 9th. He was grateful to me for saving his life and visited many times. The two families grew closer and closer, and eventually, he betrothed his daughter to Chen Chenglei. Compared to her lazy and unambitious husband, Huo Qingqing was a complete cultivation fanatic. Apart from the 2 months she took off to give birth, she was in seclusion year-round. Your wife has a pseudo-spiritual root. It's impossible for her to reach Foundation establishment. Giving her spirit origin pills is a waste. It would be better to give them to Xuanhan and Lanlan. Chen Xuanhan was Chen Chenglei's eldest son, 12 years old. At the 2nd level of chi refinement, with a 4-element spiritual root, Lanlan, whose full name was Chen Xuanlan, was only 6. She was born with a 3-element spiritual root of metal, earth, and mother. No, metal, earth, and wood. She was the hope of the Chen family, with a promising future of reaching Foundation establishment. Father, I think practicing martial arts is great. Why must we cultivate? Aren't you also a Xiantian warrior? What's so good about practicing martial arts? Can it grant you eternal life? After 100 years, even a master of martial arts is just a pile of dust. Do you still remember the family's ancestral motto? A small figure bounced in through the door and shouted loudly, "Grandpa, I know all else is inferior. Only cultivation is supreme." Shen Yu Qi, now in her 70s, appeared. She had lost the beauty of her youth. Her hair was white, and her face was full of wrinkles. Seeing her son kneeling, she began to complain. "You, Alt Coot, our son is almost 40, and you still make him kneel at the drop of a hat. He doesn't want to cultivate. Forcing him won't do any good." I bickered with her for a few sentences, but, in the end, I was won over by her tearful pleas and had to apologize. However, looking at her husband, who looked no older than 50, and then at her own white hair, Shen Yuqi couldn't help but feel the sorrow of aging. But soon, she put all her thoughts into her granddaughter. Just then, Chen Chenglei hurried back. Father-in-law is here. He's waiting for you in the living room." A glint flashed in my eyes. 2 years ago, the Ziyang sect had sent Huo Xuanwu to Tanzu Mountain to serve as a special envoy disciple, a position with a lot of perks. After some simple pleasantries, I eagerly asked, "Xuanwu, has the news been confirmed? How many 100-year tokens is the Ziyang sect releasing this year?" "A full 10 of them." Huo Xuanwu gestured with the number 10. It turned out that over 20 years ago, a Golden Core peak stage master from the Ziyang sect had failed twice in a row to break through to the nascent soul realm. His vitality was greatly damaged, and he had to sell off a large amount of resources to recover. The 100-year tokens were among them. A 100-year token represented the 100-year usage right of a first-tier spirit vein. The family that possessed it would also receive the protection of the Ziyang sect. For a small cultivator family, it was extremely important, and the price was also extremely high. Too expensive. You can't afford it. The starting price alone is a full 50,000 spirit stones. It'll probably take 60,000 to win it. How do you know I can't afford it? You have 50,000 spirit stones. I don't. But the 10 spirit veins are of different qualities. We'll just bid on the cheaper ones. I don't have that many spirit stones. But I never said I couldn't produce treasures of equivalent value. I left the living room and returned shortly after with 6 jade boxes. I opened the first square jade box Huo Xuanwu immediately jumped up and rushed over like a starving wolf. This Chihuoji, 800 years old. It's worth 50 or 60,000 spirit stones. Right, it's more than worth it. A high-grade foundation establishment pill within the Xiang sect costs at least 50,000. I pushed the Chihuo Ji towards him. It's yours. What, you're giving it to me? Yes. But you have to agree to one condition. After you reach foundation establishment, watch over the Chen family for a few years, preferably until Xuanhan or Xuanlan reaches foundation establishment. Big brother, you've lived your whole life for your family. Xuanhan and Lanlan are my grandchildren too. If I don't look after them, who will? Then, I opened the everything is yours. But you must promise me one requirement. After reaching foundation establishment, look after the Chen family for a few years. It would be best to look after Xuanhan or Xuanlan. Big brother, you have lived your entire life for the family. Xuanhan and Xuanlan are also my grandson and granddaughter. If I don't look after them, who will next? I opened the other jade boxes, 1,000-year blood sword grass, amber stone blue, and other special spirit herbs. Their values gradually rose from thousands to tens of thousands of spirit stones. Huo Xuanwu roughly estimated that, excluding the blood sword grass, the other 4 items were worth about 16,000 spirit stones, while the blood sword grass, as a natural source of spiritual energy, was worth tens of thousands. The matters of the family auction are also handed over to you. I arranged everything properly. After 2 months of specialized research on the breeding methods, the manor was decorated with lanterns and streamers. I brought Chen Chenglei and Huo Jingxing, naturally. We wouldn't be absent. When Huo Xuanwu entered the auction venue, Chen Chenglei and his wife were at the major alchemy shops, purchasing spirit herb seeds. This was to prepare for my next risky venture back to the ruined spirit herb garden. 1 month later, the Chen family moved into the manor by Longley Lake. To my surprise, after moving in, the relationship between Chen Chenglei and his wife improved greatly. While Old Eighth was working diligently on the forest land, Huo Qingqing became pregnant again. For the sake of the 3rd grandson, to be born in 8 months, I began to prepare mountain-clearing bigu pills, stomach-protecting powder, jade warding, talismans, dharma tools, longbows, armor-piercing sabers, and blended gold soft swords. Once everything was bought, I bid farewell to my family. I only said I was going to Mount Tianzu to gather herbs. Before leaving, I pulled Chen Chengle aside and secretly handed him a brocade pouch, in case I haven't returned in half a year. Open it. Although Chen Chenglei had a lazy disposition, he heard the sense of finality. No matter how he tried to persuade me, I never changed my mind. 3 months later, when I reappeared at Longley Lake, I had already lost an arm. My chest and abdomen were covered in bone-deep wounds. My body was on the verge of collapse. Seeing my wife's face, I felt a surge of relief and fell to the ground, falling into a coma. Huo Xingxing stepped forward, blockading all news on one hand, while sending a transmission talisman to Huo Xuanwu. Huo Xuanwu immediately realized the severity. Finally, he terminated his seclusion. Using the sect's 10,000-mile Cloud Eagle, he arrived in just half a day. Fortunately, he brought a high-grade soul-returning pill to narrowly save my life. It took a full 2 years to recover from the injuries. The cost was losing an arm, and my cultivation stayed at the absolute limit of the Xiantian stage. My strength was reduced to only 60%. I lost 20 years of my lifespan, but I believe this deal was profitable in the end. Do not fight for the moment. Do not calculate the highs and lows of the present. From then on, I washed my hands of the world and lived a leisurely life, playing with my grandchildren. 10 years later, the atmosphere in the Chen family's rear courtyard was unusually heavy. This was the day my grandson was born. But it was also the moment of Shen Yuqi's passing. I sent the entire family out of the room. Inside, I sat by the bedside, holding my wife's hand, softly recounting every little detail of the past 70 years. Shen Yuqi was as thin as a withered branch and had fallen into a coma. I don't know how much time passed, but her hand moved slightly. She slowly opened her eyes. Sensing her husband's hand, she revealed a peaceful smile. She murmured, "Brother Huan, I'm finally dying before you. That's good. Yes. From now on, I will be the only one left. Brother Huan, you have always understood people best. Brother Huan, You always understood me best. Do you still remember how we first met? How could I forget? I used perfume to lure you and Yu Yan over, and specially played a song. High mountains and flowing water. I knew you had bad intentions back then. I was young and ignorant, and was easily tricked into your hands. Do you regret it? I don't regret it. I will never regret it. Brother Huan. I want to hear you say that love poem from back then one more time. Skillfully woven hearts, laboring in vain to spread sorrow, cold shadows and hidden paths, braving the biting wind. A single meeting in the morning mist outweighs countless encounters in the mortal world. After I finished, her face suddenly took on an abnormal flush, the final radiance before the end. She looked at me with longing. Brother Huan. Blossoms bloomed overnight. A dilapidated carriage stopped in front of an old mansion. 7 or 8 thugs surrounded it, trying to drive away the coachman. Chen let out a shout, and his Shantian, true chi erupted, knocking the 7 or 8 thugs to the ground. The 2 Bloodblade sect disciples guarding the gate turned pale. My one-armed figure quietly appeared between the 2 of them. An aura as heavy as a mountain pressed down on them, rendering them unable to move. After finding out the situation, I learned that the Bloodblade ancestor wanted to take the Chen family's 3rd young master as his disciple, which was why he had come to the Chen residence. I stepped into the ancestral home I hadn't returned to in 50 years. In the main hall, the Bloodblade ancestor, looking fierce and menacing, was interrogating the Chen family members. An elderly man, Chen Ziyin, was in a difficult position. I walked into the main hall holding the urn. The Bloodblade ancestor sneered. Where did this old cripple come from, disciples? Kill him without mercy. The coachman, Chen rushed into the crowd. Bursts of Shantian chi erupted, and the Bloodblade disciples were sent flying. Chen Ziyan stared at me intently and finally recognized me. 9th brother, your 9th brother. Where have you been all these years? Our brothers, they're all dead. Even Chenggong's descendants are dead. Why didn't you come back sooner, Chenggong? My eldest son was already dead. He had chosen to return to the Chen family after all. A white-haired man, sending off a black-haired one. There is no greater sorrow in this world. I had personally sent 7 of my own children off in carriages, watching them each head towards an unknown future. At this moment, my heart was filled with incomparable bitterness. The Bloodblade ancestor tried to sneak away. A blue light shot out from the sleeve of my severed arm, and the Bloodblade ancestor's head silently fell to the ground. The old Taoist priest next to him dropped to his knees and begged for mercy. After settling everything, I learned that the Black Ice Terrace of the 2 nations had issued a secret bounty to bring the Chen family's 3rd young master to the capital. Behind it was Duke Dongling, a branch of a Foundation establishment cultivator family. Because their descendants had been without a spiritual root for 5 consecutive generations, they had set their sights on the Chen families, descendants who did have spiritual roots. Chen Jijin led me to the study. 2 hours later, I had heard the story of the Chen family struggles over the past few decades. After I fled, the family head, Chen Hexing, personally killed all the insiders, ordered the clan members to scatter and hide, and then took his own life. When the Zhou family arrived, they found nothing, and went on a killing spree in the Chen residence. 30 years later, after Chen Jijin advanced to the Shantian realm, the Chen family began to recover. Of my 7 children, only my eldest son, Chen Chenggong, returned with his wife and children after 10 years. His son was Chen Xuanyi. When Chen Xuanyi knelt and kowtowed to me, I learned that Chen Chenggong had passed away just 3 years ago. I hadn't even been able to see him one last time. The other 6 children were still missing. Hearing that the Chen family had established a foothold in the cultivation world and had 4 chi refinement cultivators, Chen Jijin and Chen Xuanyi were overjoyed. They also revealed a secret. This branch of the Chen family also had a cultivator, Chen Yuji, 15 years old, with a 3-element spiritual root of metal, wood, and fire. At the first level of chi refinement, he was Chen Xuanyi's 3rd son, my great-grandson. But what shocked me even more was another piece of news. What did you say? Yu Yan is still alive. Where is she? She's living in seclusion in Muling City. Your 2nd son is there too. I set off impatiently. A day later, The carriage stopped in front of a small courtyard in Muling City. The plaque above the gate read Chen Residence. My heart was filled with emotion. Back then, I was so focused on arranging our escape that I didn't have time to think about Shen Yuyan. I had assumed she was in Fangyan Valley with the rest of the Shen family. A sound of a zither came from within the courtyard walls. I had assumed she was in Fangyan Valley with the rest of the Shen family. A sound of a zither came from within the courtyard walls. Intermittent and halting. Like a beginner playing an unfamiliar piece, the long-forgotten melody of high mountains and flowing water welled up in my heart. I lightly tapped my feet and floated over the wall, landing by the octagonal pavilion in the garden. A young man with a face as handsome as jade sat behind the zither table, clumsily plucking the ancient zither. It was as if I had returned to that afternoon 70 years ago. The young man noticed me, his expression changing drastically. "Who are you? Why have you trespassed into my Chen residence? Don't be afraid, child. This old man means no harm. I'm just here to see an old friend." Chen Yujie became even more nervous. 2 talismans appearing in his hand. "The way you were just playing was wrong. High mountains and flowing water isn't played like that." "Who are you? You know I was playing. High mountains and flowing water. I composed this piece. I composed that piece myself. Do you think I wouldn't know it? Impossible. Grandma said that only a few people in the world know this song. Only a few people know." I extended my right hand, and purple-blue Shantian Qi burst from my fingertips, connecting to the strings of the zither to zhang away. My fingers, the strings? My fingers pressed and plucked in the air. An ethereal and beautiful melody drifted out from the garden. Halfway through, the strings suddenly faltered. My body stiffened. I turned to look at a corner of the garden where in the corner of the garden, a thin, white-haired old woman was standing there. 50 years of wind and frost. The beauty she once possessed had been eroded by time, but I still recognized her at a single glance. The two of us recognized her. We stared at each other for a long time. Yuyan. I stared for a long time. I'm back. Shen Yuyan walked over slowly. He thought that when they reunited, he would lose control of his emotions. But at this moment, he was unusually calm. Like a wife who had lived alone for decades, suddenly seeing her long-absent husband return home. It's been a long time. Husband returning. It's been a long time. Sister, are you doing well? My lips trembled, and I paused for a moment. Lips trembled. Pausing for a moment, my voice choked up. Not well at all. She suddenly smiled. Not well at all. She suddenly smiled. We haven't seen each other in so many years. How did you become so foolish? Where did all your sweet talk go? You've grown old. Soon, sweet talk. You've grown old. Soon, you'll be senile. You've grown old too. We've both grown old. He didn't respond. Changing the subject. Where's Yuchi? Is she still as impatient as ever? Still impatient. My expression darkened as I whispered. 3. Expression darkened. 3 months ago, her sister passed away. Shen Yuyan's. The smile on her face vanished instantly, and tears welled up. Dead. They're all dead. In the Shen family, all dead. Only I am left in the Shen family. You still have me. But you aren't a member of the Shen family. I am the Shen family's son-in-law. Chengle and Yujie both have Shen blood in them. Yuyan, they have Shen blood. Yuyan, you are not alone. A cough interrupted the two. In the octagonal pavilion, Chen Yujie stood there awkwardly. 3 days later, stood there. 3 days later. In the northwest corner of the Chen family's ancestral cemetery, in the northwest corner, a new grave was erected. Chen Chuanyi, his wife, and several great-grandchildren performed the ceremony of 3 bows and 9 kowtows before Shen Yuqi's tombstone. Shen Yuyan wept uncontrollably. She cried until she lost her voice. The day we returned, she fell ill, and, ignoring my own exhaustion, I stayed by her side every day. At the same time, I secretly arranged for Chen Chuanyi, Chen Yuji, and the others to move to Longley Lake. That place was short on people. Chen Chuanyi's outstanding abilities could help Chen Chengle and his wife manage the treehouse. 3 years later, in the bleak autumn wind, beside Shen Yuqi's grave, another tombstone was erected. Another tombstone. I sat on the stone steps Sat on the steps, looking at the tombstone. I sat on the stone steps and stared at the words on the stone, my mind in a daze. Yu Yan. I said I would give you a formal status, but you refused until the very end. Refused. I wrote a love poem for your sister. Now, I'll give one to you too. The autumn wind blows away the fallen leaves. Revealing the words on the tombstone, ask the world, what is love? That it binds even unto death. What is love? That it binds even unto death. Two birds flying across the world. Flying across. How many winters and summers joy turns to the bitterness of parting. Within it are wives, son, and daughters. You roam through the vast miles of clouds and the evening snow on 1,000 mountains. I wonder, clouds and snow, I wonder whose shadow you follow. As the sun set, I propped up my aging body and walked toward the distant cold mountains. The third life ended. In my mind. The third life ended. In my mind, a book glowing with a green light appeared. A glowing green book of 100 lives. Nearly 100 years of memories and emotions. Memories and emotions were extracted. My mind suddenly became incredibly clear, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. A heavy burden lifted. This time, I finally drew a spiritual root. My constitution is gold, water, wood, and earth for spiritual roots. Although not great, I can finally cultivate. At the same time, I can cultivate. I also gained a new talent, rock steady hands. Both hands are as steady as a rock. Waking up from the darkness once again, countless memories flooded my mind. As far as I know, over 280 years have passed. The Chen family has been rooted at Longley Lake for nearly 300 years. Rooted for 300 years. We have 31 cultivators. 70 years after my death, Chen Xuanlan successfully established his foundation. Hua Xuan. Xuanlan reached foundation establishment. Huo Xuanwu also promoted to foundation establishment. Unfortunately, he failed to form a core and passed away at the age of 210 at the Ziyang sect. Zhang Wu also promoted to foundation establishment. But unfortunately, he could not form a core and passed away at 210 at the Ziyang sect. However, the Chen family, the situation is grim. Two factions are in fierce internal conflict, fighting over foundation establishment pills, arguing incessantly. In this life, my name is Chen Chonghe. In the previous two draws, I obtained bullet time. Time slows down 3 times, lasting for 2 seconds each time, as well as rapid healing. My recovery speed is 7 times faster than a normal person's. 7 times faster. I couldn't wait to enter the cultivation room. After a month of secluded cultivation, I broke through to the second level of Qi refining. The cost for Qi Layer 2 was a grade 6 spirit origin pill. After the grade 6 spirit origin pill, I began learning talisman crafting and alchemy. It burned through spirit stones too fast. Current conditions didn't allow it. After leaving seclusion, I found Elder Zhao Jinggang of the second branch, leading people from the Lian Ying and Wei families. They arrived at our door in a threatening manner. Not only did they want the foundation establishment pill, but they also demanded the first branch hand over the treasury, the library, and the cultivation rooms. It was a clear attempt to seize power through a coup. Even more suspicious was that the second branch actually led the Wei family into the Yanyue Island core secret grounds of the Chen family. This was the location of the core secret grounds, the defensive formation, and the escape tunnels. The location of the escape tunnels, when I arrived, the entrance was already guarded by 2 Wei family cultivators. I shouted, I am a member of the Chen clan. Is the Wei family not? Invited by my second granduncle to assist us. The 2 men quickly stepped aside. Inside the Tongxin Hall, the 2 factions were in a standoff. The first branch, including me, had only 11 people. The second branch had 14. Also present was the Wei family's foundation establishment ancestor, Wei Chengwu. After a fierce argument, Wei Chengwu used his foundation establishment pressure to suppress the first branch elder, Chen Qingdi. He pressured him to agree to hand over the foundation establishment pill to the second branch. Just as the first branch fell into despair, 3 figures walked in from outside the hall. The leader was a Ziyang sect foundation establishment cultivator. who unleashed his pressure without any concealment. This man was named Chen Jinfu, a direct descendant of the first branch, born with the triple spirit roots of gold, fire, and wood. Born with the triple spirit roots of gold, fire, and wood. His gold root accounted for 70%, a talent, hailed as the Chen family's best in 300 years. 16 years ago, he joined the Ziyang sect. At only 28, he reached the 7th layer of qi condensation. However, Chen Jinfu did not stand with the first branch. The Zhao family is rotten to the core. This family is not worth fighting for. He declared his departure. He even changed his surname. It turned out, his biological father was a man from the Wei family. Back then, a woman from the Chen family became pregnant out of wedlock and gave birth to him. This had always been a taboo subject within the Chen family. Now, the Wei family used a triple lineage blood test to verify the relation. Chen Jinfu decided to acknowledge his ancestors and return to his clan. Before leaving, he tossed a storage bag to me. And said, "The family is rotten, but you are the only one who is somewhat tolerable to look at." Inside the storage bag, besides spirit stones and treasures, there was also a low-grade foundation establishment pill. He brought it from the Ziyang sect. The situation for the Chen family took a sudden downward turn. Under the manipulation of the 2 foundation establishment experts, the second branch tried to seize power through a vote. I stood up and negotiated for 15 minutes of consultation time. Using this interval, I raised the critical issue. The lease on Longley Lake has less than 10 years left. Then I produced the foundation establishment pill from the storage bag. Now we have 2 foundation establishment pills. The fairest way is for each branch to take one. Finally, the 2 branches reached a consensus, and I was pushed forward. As the temporary clan leader, after taking the position, I used my left hand to resolve the conflict between branches. The first thing I did was to backpay 2 years of spirit salaries to the clansmen. The reason the Chen family's infighting reached this point, in the final analysis, was because of one word: poverty. Aside from cultivation, all my spare time was spent drawing talismans. With the help of bullet time, the success rate of the grade 1 Spring Breeze and Transforming Rain talisman soared from 30% to, with the help of bullet time, the Spring Breeze and Transforming Rain talisman. The success rate of the Spring Breeze and Transforming Rain talisman soared from 30% to 100%. I quickly switched to the more profitable Invisibility talisman. 6 months later, 2 pieces of bad news came in succession. Chen Jinggang and Chen Jinding both failed their foundation establishment. I decided to enter Mount Tianzu early for seclusion. 2 years later, I secretly reached the 3rd layer of qi condensation. After leaving seclusion, I found 60% more fishing boats on Longley Lake than 2 years ago. Because the carp wouldn't sell, the family was forced to cut prices by 30%. At this time, trouble found its way to me. I was cornered by Chen Chongxiao, who wanted me to go to 7 Clouds Peak to watch the clouds and the moon. I caught a whiff of a foul, rotten blood-like stench from him. Others couldn't smell it, but my innate senses were exceptionally sharp. After investigating, I discovered Chen Chongxiao was cursed with rotten bloodbone. He was coerced into luring me and Chen Chongwei out. The masterminds were 3 people calling themselves the 3 Immortals of Mount Wu. We turned their trap against them. It was worth at least 200,000 spirit stones. What surprised me even more was that under the Jade Blood treasure tree, there was a spirit marsh, the excrement of spirit earthworms. Following the traces, I discovered that behind the rubble, there was likely a hidden spirit vein. I began to dig a tunnel. A month later, the tunnel exceeded 100 zhang, and the concentration of spiritual qi had increased significantly, almost comparable to the core of the Dragon Carp Lake spirit vine. All signs indicated that this was at least a 2nd-tier spirit vein. Just then, the cold wave arrived, early. The cold wave on the dark side of Tianzu Mountain was extremely terrifying. Countless demonic beasts fled and fought in a frenzy. I hid in the cave, blocking the entrance with rubble and lighting a fire to ward off the severe cold. 3 days later, the cold wave passed. I crawled out of the cave. The next moment, my heart pounded. A massive head, resembling a Jiao dragon, was staring right at me. It was a foundation establishment level, fierce beast, but its eyes were filled with terror. Before I could even react, a giant silver claw descended from above and pressed down on the fierce beast's head. An enormous body slowly revealed itself. A camel-like head, short silver horns, a crocodile-like mouth full of fangs, and a body covered in silver scales. Clouds and mist swirled beneath it. a cloud, Jiao, a dominant creature of Tanzu Mountain. Each one was comparable to a golden core cultivator. Its draconic roar was like a 10,000 Jin hammer smashing into my head. I didn't even have a chance to activate bullet time. The shockwave sent me flying into a rock wall, and I spat out a large amount of blood and organ fragments. Just as I thought I was about to die, a crack opened in the thick fog. Ah, brilliant! The rainbow of sword light shot through the air and entered the Jiao dragon's back. A 2 zang long, bone-deep wound opened up on its back. Someone had intervened. And it was an extremely powerful person. I didn't have time to see who it was. I scrambled into the cave, activated my lesser heavenly cycle talisman disc, and erected more than 10 defensive spells, instantly sealing the cave entrance. Then, my vision went black, and I passed out. After an unknown amount of time, I slowly woke up. A faint, dark fragrance wafted into my nose. Lingering, a pleasant, melodious female voice sounded. "You're awake?" I steadied my mind and opened my eyes. I turned my head, and the first thing I saw was a luo dress. The hem of the dress hung down, with a jade sword pressing it down. My gaze moved upwards. A silk ribbon cinched her waist, embroidered with an elegant floral pattern using a clever technique. I didn't dare to stare and moved my gaze upwards again, meeting a pair of eyes as clear as water. To be honest, when I first woke up, my heart was stirred, and I had some small fantasies. But when I met this pair of bright eyes, those little thoughts instantly vanished, because I saw, deep within those clear eyes, a flow of chilling sword intent. It seemed as calm as an ancient well, but behind it was a power that could make one's blood run cold. I immediately stood up, raised my hand in a salute, and bowed deeply. I will never forget the grace of saving my life. Junior Chen Chongge. May I ask for senior's esteemed? Name Yue Qinghan of the Ziyang Palace. Yue Qinghan. I searched my memory but couldn't find the name Yue Qinghan among the Golden Core Masters of the Ziyang sect. When did the Ziyang sect get a female Golden Core cultivator? As I was wondering how to continue the conversation, she spoke first. "Did you cultivate the medicine field outside?" Hearing this, I was startled and thought, this is bad. I quickly looked up, but due to the angle, I suddenly saw Yue Qinghan's fair neck and collarbone, her jade-like skin, visible through the thin gauze. Due to the angle, I suddenly saw Yue Qinghan's fair neck and collarbone, her jade-like skin, visible through the thin gauze, glowed. I quickly averted my gaze, not daring to look further. I have to say, in all my past lives, I have never met a woman as transcendent as Yue Qinghan. It wasn't that she was peerlessly beautiful, but her aura was otherworldly, like an immortal banished to the mortal realm. I forcefully extinguished the thought and nodded respectfully. "True Lord Yue, that medicine field was indeed cultivated by me. Very good. I want that jade blood treasure tree. What are your conditions? Feel free to state them." So that's what it was. But before I could respond, my body felt light, and an irresistible force enveloped me. The scenery before me instantly blurred, and I felt a slight dizziness. By the time my feet were on solid ground again, I was at the edge of the medicine field. When I came to my senses and saw the scene before me, I was shocked. The original slope had collapsed for the most part. Only the medicine field and a small area near the mountain wall were intact. What shocked me even more was that the high-tier Cloud Jiao was lying on the verge of death in the clouds outside the cliff. Its body covered in wounds so deep you could see the bone. A sharp sword intent emanated from the wounds, preventing them from healing. There was also a shimmering, lightning-infused, dragon-locking ring around its neck. It had clearly been subdued by Yue Qinghan. I only glanced at it once before daring not to look again. Afraid that this cloud, I turned my head away, fearing the cloud flood dragon would vent its anger on me. But as I turned, I was immediately captivated by the breathtaking sight before me. Yue Qinghan stood with her ribbons fluttering in the swirling mist, her back to the endless sea of fog. Her entire being was bathed in a radiant, multicolored glow. She looked like a celestial being descended to earth. In that moment, a sudden realization dawned on me. I knew that I would likely never forget this scene for the rest of my life. I lowered my gaze to hide the envy swirling deep within my heart. I spoke up. "Immortal. If you like it, please feel free to take it. These are merely external things. They can't compare to a life-saving pill." A faint smile suddenly flashed across Yue Qinghan's face, but she quickly regained her cold, detached expression. She shook her head, and the jade beads at her temples swayed gently. I have never liked owing anyone a karmic debt. She was a practitioner of the Xinjian sect, and her state of mind had already reached the level of clear perception. To the Xinjian sect, karma is a burden. Only by remaining untainted can one sever the ties of eternity. Karma and fate, of course. I didn't know her true nature at the time. I simply thought she was being modest. But when I looked into those sincere and clear eyes of hers, I fell silent. I lowered my head and thought for a moment before looking up again. I shook my head and said earnestly, I am a very greedy person. There are too many things I want. Yet at the same time, I don't know what it is I truly desire. If you don't wish to owe a karmic debt, then just grant me a few treasures. As long as you feel we are even, that will be enough. Yue Qinghan's clear eyes finally showed a flicker of emotion. For the first time, she looked at me directly. You are very honest. This kind of temperament is perfectly suited for a sword cultivator. Why not switch to the path of the sword in the future? I was stunned for a moment, thinking she wanted to take me as a disciple. But after seeing her expression, I immediately dismissed the thought. She had no intention of taking a disciple. She was simply as direct as a sword, pure and transparent. She said whatever was on her mind. After thinking it over, I shook my head. I do practice the sword, but I don't plan on becoming a pure sword cultivator. That's a pity. Yu Qinghan replied. She untied a jade sword pendant from her waist and placed it in my hand. I don't have any suitable treasures on me right now. This pendant will serve as a token. I don't have any suitable treasures on me. This jade sword is a token. Once you figure out what you truly want, you can bring it to the Ziyang sect to find me. I bowed in thanks and carefully tucked the jade sword away. Yue Qinghan quickly dug up the jade blood treasure tree, taking the surrounding soil with it. Once finished, she said, softly, this spiritual land of yours is very rare. Be careful not to expose it. Furthermore, Mount Tanzu has become a vortex of trouble. Many golden core cultivators will arrive soon, and things will get chaotic. You should leave with me. I appreciate your kindness, immortal, but I still have unfinished business here. I don't plan on leaving just yet. Once the cold tide hits, Mount Tanzu will be impossible to climb. If I leave now, it will be at least 6 months before I can enter the mountain again. Mount Tianju is vast and rugged. No one will find this place. This land is extremely well hidden. This land is extremely well hidden. No one has found it in 100 years. In that case, take care of yourself. Yue Qinghan said as she prepared to leave. Before departing, she suddenly tossed something to me. Since you enjoy scavenging, you might as well study this. The object flying toward me was a luminous pearl. Inside, the silhouette of a figure holding a sword flickered, and the surface radiated faint traces of sword intent. While I was examining the pearl, Yue Qinghan drifted onto the cloud flood dragon's head. Her delicate hand gripped its horn with a roar that shook the heavens. A massive cloud of mist suddenly erupted beneath the dragon. The dragon and the female cultivator rose gracefully into the high sky. In a flash, they vanished into the boundless sea of mist. This is what a true immortal looks like. I felt deeply that only someone like Yue Qinghan riding a dragon and drifting like a celestial was a goal worth pursuing. As for people like Wu Lin and Zichuan, they are nothing but petty, scurrying dogs who tarnish the reputation of cultivators. I wondered when I would ever reach such a realm. I looked up at the sky and sighed, then let out a loud laugh. In that laughter, the image of the woman who had tamed the dragon became a beacon on my path to ascension, waiting for me to surpass her. I only wonder if my family will still be there when that day comes. My family is gone. I turned around to head back to the cave. Just then, I suddenly noticed something in a crack in the rock wall. It was a massive, horn-like object. The lower half was still attached to flesh, while the upper half was as sharp as a blade and half the height of a man. Needless to say, this was left behind by that unlucky cloud flood dragon. I looked around. The slopes and nearby rock walls were covered in thick, dark, red dragon blood that emitted a fresh fragrance. Stuck between the rocks and slopes were various pieces of flesh and scales, some broken and some intact. The scales are perfectly intact. I'm overjoyed. Every part of a flood dragon is a treasure. The inner core can be used for golden elixirs, and the blood and meat can be refined into pills. Its scales and claws are perfect for crafting weapons. Even its aura can intimidate other spirit beasts. It took me half a day just to clean up the surrounding slope. I used stones to carve out 2 large vats to store the essence and minced meat. Separating the scales and claws took another hour. It was painstaking work to separate the claws from the joints. The 4-foot-long claws barely fit into my storage bag. After moving the 2 large vats into the cave and hiding them, the internal injuries I'd been suppressing finally flared up. My expression darkened. After sealing the cave entrance, I immediately took some healing pills. I sat cross-legged, circulating my spiritual energy to slowly repair the cracks in my internal organs. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Mount Tanzu grew colder by the day as cold waves frequently erupted. The herb gatherers all left the mountain early. Hardly a soul could be seen amidst the sea of clouds. But above the 3rd layer, things were quite lively. One could see golden core cultivators riding dharma treasures or spirit beasts. Most of them flew directly above the 3rd layer of clouds. I remained oblivious to the outside world, nor did I care to know. Once my injuries had healed, I put most of my energy into excavating the tunnel. After half a month, the tunnel had more than doubled in length. The spiritual energy density increased at an alarming rate, far exceeding the highest levels of the Longli spiritual veins. 2 hours later, I struck the stone wall until I was exhausted. Suddenly, the resistance vanished. I reached out and felt a dark opening. I finally broke through. I quickly widened the hole and threw a light orb inside. By its light, I could see the interior. The cave was incredibly spacious, over 30 feet in diameter. The surrounding walls were very smooth, except for where tree roots had cracked them. The whole thing looked like a giant, circular tunnel. Seeing this strange sight, a passage from a secret text suddenly came to mind. The king of the autumn forest, named the mountain dragon. The large ones are like the mountain moon. Their lifespan is beyond measure, living 10,000 years without death, until they transform into true dragons. Could this tunnel have been bored out by a mountain dragon? I can't think of any other spirit beast that could dig such a massive tunnel. Over 200 zang deep into the mountain, fully armed. I held the small Zhou heaven floating plate in my right hand and the pale green ring in my left, with 3 water swirl shields in front and 2 layers of golden light armor protecting my body. I cautiously moved forward. I walked for about 3 or 4 miles along the tunnel, proceeding with caution. I walked for about 3 or 4 miles until the view ahead suddenly opened up. An underground grotto appeared before me, spanning dozens of acres. The spiritual energy was higher than anything I'd ever seen, no less than a 2nd-tier spiritual vein. But what truly shocked me was something else entirely. Inside the massive grotto, countless python-like tree roots had broken through the stone walls, hanging down densely from all directions. The tips of all these roots were buried into the center of the grotto, into a massive, mountain-like coiled snake creature. The golden core cloud dragon I saw before was large enough, but compared to this behemoth, it was like a tiny loach. Its body was magnified countless times, and spirit earthworms were crawling in and out of it. It emitted a dragon pressure very similar to the cloud dragon, even though it had been dead for countless years. That natural pressure had never dissipated. It was undoubtedly a mountain dragon. I pushed aside the roots and walked toward it, filled with emotion. To think that such a powerful creature, favored by heaven and earth, could not survive the tribulation of transforming into a dragon. Looking at the remains that had already turned to stone and earth, I whispered regretfully, "Which tribulation did you fall to? Since the cold wave sealed the mountain, the temperature on Mount Tanzu has dropped day by day. Snow falls constantly over the misty sea on the dark side of the mountain. The snow has piled up high." I woke up from my meditation in the mountain dragon cave, feeling utterly frustrated. What does it feel like to enter a mountain of treasures and return empty-handed? I am experiencing it vividly right now. The spiritual energy here is dense, but unfortunately, it's all earth element energy. It's completely useless to me. I almost lost my temper. I took out my dragon slayer and started hacking away at the mountain dragon's remains. Only after venting my frustration did I finally calm down. I collected the shattered earth I'd hacked off. Although these remains have turned to stone, they can still be used as medicinal soil. It's comparable to spirit medicine. So, in between my cultivation, I've become a part-time farmer, loosening soil, watering, and spreading medicinal earth for the nest of spirit earthworms. Since I can't cultivate during the cold wave, I had to find something to do. I ran out of spirit essence pills. a month ago, and my talismans have no spiritual power left to support them. Fortunately, the days passed quickly. Half a month later, I stood on a rock, at the edge of the slope, looking out into the mist. As the last traces of ice and snow melted, a smile finally appeared on my face. I sealed the entrance to the cave, and immediately set off on the path out of the mountains. 20 days later, I arrived at the gates of Dongtian City. Everything was in order. I couldn't let those old foxes in the city see that I had just come down from Tanzu Mountain. I paid the entry tax, and just as I passed the gate, a disheveled figure suddenly rushed up and grabbed my arm. "Chonghe, you're finally back." I was scared to death. I took a closer look and saw it was Chen Yongwu. "I only went out for a single trip." "Why? Are you in such a state?" He gave a bitter smile and looked around. Cautiously, he whispered, "Uncle, it's not convenient to talk here. Let's go home first." 7 days later, inside the meditation room of the courtyard, I opened my eyes and exhaled a long pillar of white mist. The spiritual energy in my body had grown significantly. I have reached the 4th level of Qi refining. I didn't expect the life and death ordeal on Tianzu Mountain to actually let me break through the bottleneck between the 3rd and 4th levels. This saved me at least 3 years of time. 7 days ago, I learned from Chen Yongwu that the once relaxed relationship between the 2 branches of the Chen family had suddenly become tense. The second branch, claiming to have support from the Ziyang sect, ignored the first branch's opposition and intensified their plundering of the family's assets. Ostensibly, it was to renew the lease for the Longleaf Fox, but no one knew what they were really planning in the shadows. Both sides realized that I, the clan head, had suddenly become important, but since I wasn't there at the time, I already had an answer in my heart. I won't go back, nor will I interfere in the feud. The root of all the Chen family's conflicts boils down to 2 points. One is the lack of a foundation establishment cultivator to protect us, and the other is the Longleaf Fox. Once these 2 issues are resolved, everything else will be settled. The next morning, Elder Chen Jinding came to Dongtian City in person. In the living room, I first saw a pale Chen Jinding sitting in the seat of honor. Beside him sat an elderly man with a similar face. Could he be the leader of the Chen family's secret department? Back when I was studying the history of the Gu clan's extermination, the ancestor personally mentioned the secret department before he died. The old man before me is indeed the current leader of the secret department, Chen Jinjian. At the 9th level of Qi refining, once the 3 of us were seated, Chen Jinding spoke with a serious expression. "Chonghe, you can tell us. Now, why did you insist on summoning Jinjian to Dongtian City?" I didn't offer an explanation. Instead, I took a jade box from my storage bag and pushed it toward them. Chen Jinjian, who was sitting to the side, had been secretly observing me. He couldn't help but be interested in the youngest clan head in the Chen family's 300-year history. Despite his youthful appearance, his demeanor was exceptionally steady. He didn't seem like a young man at all, but more like an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years. As he was pondering, he suddenly heard Chen Jinding let out a cry of surprise. The red fire mushroom. Chen Jinjian's mind went blank as he stood up abruptly and leaned over the jade box, crimson as fire. The cap like jade. That's right. It's the red fire mushroom. He was flushed with excitement. The cap is like jade. It's definitely the red fire mushroom. He was trembling with excitement. He knew the Chen family situation all too well. He originally thought he would spend his life at the peak of Qi refining, never expecting the ancestors to bless them with such a surprise. Chen Jinding snapped the jade box shut and asked excitedly, "Chonghe, how did you get this? Perhaps heaven is looking out for me." I managed to find a few spiritual herbs on Tianzu Mountain by chance. He immediately caught the implication. "Do you mean you have other herbs comparable to the red fire mushroom?" I nodded and took out 3 more jade boxes. A 400-year-old spirit refining grass, a 700-year-old dragon refining fruit, and a 1,000-year-old golden root. Their value was immense. These were only a small portion of what was in my storage bag. I didn't plan to take out the rest of the red fire mushrooms or the bloodsword grass yet. I looked at the trembling Chen Jinjian. "Elder, I should call you 4th uncle. With these items, how many years do you need to reach foundation establishment?" Chen Jinjian thought for a moment and said firmly, 4 years. 3 years to reach peak cultivation, and 1 year for the breakthrough. 3 days later, Chen Jinding left Dongtian City full of hope. Chen Jinjian, however, stayed nearby. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. On the 3rd day after the winter solstice, I personally watched Chen Jinjian enter the inner city of Dongtian into a chamber, specifically for Foundation establishment. After returning to the courtyard, I specifically dressed to look older, disguising myself as a middle-aged man and heading to the Danding Pavilion in the inner city. Danding Pavilion is a large-scale shop opened by the Great Cultivation sect. The Danding sect. They deal in spiritual herbs and various thousand-year-old spiritual items. With a thousand-year-old reputation, the shop was highly esteemed. Over the past 3 years, I had gradually sold 4 spiritual herbs to Danding Pavilion. I also spent a great deal of effort investigating their internal affairs. This time, I came in disguise because I was finally ready to make a real move. After finding Manager Liu, an old acquaintance, I got straight to the point and produced a Scarlet Fire Sap, a stalk of Scarlet Fire Sap. As expected of someone from a major sect, he only showed a hint of surprise before quickly regaining his composure. After some back and forth testing, Manager Liu exchanged the Scarlet Fire Sap for various pills at market value. The total value was about 30,000 spirit stones, exactly the market price for a Foundation establishment pill. I knew I took a bit of a loss, but sometimes taking a loss is a blessing. More importantly, I managed to find out from him that the Danding sect was about to hold the Centennial Decree auction, and I successfully secured an invitation. The Centennial Decree represents a 100-year right to use a spirit vein. For a small cultivation family, it is incredibly important. After leaving Danding Pavilion, I crossed several streets and quickly ducked into an inn to change my appearance. Just as I was about to leave, my nose suddenly caught something unusual. Someone was following me, a grimy middle-aged man standing on the street, his upper body covered in silver-white armor, followed me from the corner. With killing intent flashing in his eyes, I calmly lowered my head and walked toward the outer city. After crossing 7 or 8 streets, I turned into a secluded alley. The moment the man stepped inside, a seductive illusion appeared before him. It was the illusion art old man Shi had taught me. The moment his mind faltered, I activated the 9-fold mist sword talisman. A massive cloud of mist rose, and countless water droplets infused with sword intent condensed, crashing down like a torrential rain. Once the mist cleared, only a piece of honeycombed silver armor and a pool of bloody pulp remained in the alley. This man was from the Shen family mentioned in the auction catalog. It seemed the news of the invitation had already leaked. Someone didn't want me to participate. This person was from the Shen family mentioned in the catalog. It seems the news of the invitation has already leaked, and someone doesn't want me to attend the auction. After this, for over half a month, I stayed at home, recovering from my injuries while studying the Phantom Shield Talisman. At the same time, I instructed Chen Yongwu to stand guard outside Chen Jinjian's seclusion cave. With 3 days left before our departure, I personally went to wait outside the cave. I waited for 3 days. Then 2. On the final day, just as I was about to give up hope, the cave doors slowly opened at dusk. Chen Jinjian walked out, his hair completely silver and his face covered in wrinkles, looking much older than before he entered seclusion. He failed. My expression darkened, but in an instant, my worry turned to joy. No, he succeeded. The powerful aura radiating from him was no less than that of a Foundation establishment cultivator. A Foundation establishment cultivator, however, that aged face showed that he had paid a heavy price. The water-burning technique, a demonic secret art that burns one's lifespan to increase the success rate of Foundation establishment. Once activated, it cannot be stopped. It's either success or death. He walked up to me and gave a slight smile. Nature is no match for fate. My eyes welled up, knowing that the lifespan he had consumed would never be recovered. His life expectancy was now significantly shorter than other Foundation establishment cultivators. Any words of praise felt redundant. After a long silence, I said, "You've worked hard. If our ancestors in heaven see that the family has a new Foundation establishment cultivator, they will surely be deeply comforted." Chen Jinjian remained calm and looked at me with appreciative eyes. "Zhonghe, if not for your help, this old man wouldn't be where he is today. Thank you." That thank you seemed casual, but it carried a firm commitment. I smiled. The family's affairs were finally stable. In the early morning, before the mist had cleared, at the cloudboat pier below Tanzu Mountain, cultivators had already begun to arrive. Chen Jinjian and I arrived early at the cloud boat pier. Cultivators had already begun to arrive. Chen Jinjian and I arrived early to wait for the Haoran Sec's transport cloud boat. When Chen Jinjian learned we were going to the Danding Sect to bid for the Centennial Decree, the look of utter shock on his face made even him feel embarrassed. But he quickly became excited, with such a clan leader leading the family. The future looked promising. By mid-morning, a black dot appeared behind the clouds high in the sky, growing larger as the cloud boat slowly descended. It was about 200 zang long, 20 zang from the deck to the bottom, with a 9-story building nearly 50 zhang high. Calling it a flying boat was an understatement. It was more like a floating city. A floating city. 5 days later, at noon, we disembarked from the cloud boat at the Danding Sec's Juding district. The climate in the southern border was scorching hot. On the streets, southern border beauties in bodices and short skirts could be seen everywhere. All sorts of demonic beasts walked openly among the crowds. This sight was truly eye-opening. After finding an inn to stay at, I handed a long wooden box to Chen Jinjian. He opened it to find a 4-foot-long, silver-white, flood dragon claw shimmering with a metallic luster. Grandpa. This was taken from a golden core level cloud dragon. I also have a pile of cloud dragon, flesh, and spirit armor. Chen Jinjian couldn't help but gulp. These treasures are precious, but they're still not enough to bid for the century token. I never said I'd use these for the token. These are for you. A foundation establishment cultivator would be a laughingstock without a couple of decent spirit tools. Besides, we might run into trouble. Boosting our own strength is the only way. Then what are you going to use to bid for the century token? Like a magic trick. A struggling, wriggling golden ring spirit earthworm appeared in my hand. In the world of cultivation, this spirit earthworm is extremely rare. Its waste is the best fertilizer for spirit soil. But the true value of the golden ring spirit earthworm doesn't lie there. They are the nobles among spirit earthworms, with a bloodline closest to the mountain dragon. They can even evolve into the immortal mountain dragon. If a golden core master signs a contract with a mountain dragon, their lifespan will increase to 2,000 years. Chen Jinjian was skeptical, but seeing my confidence, his own faith grew immensely. The day before the auction, Chen Jinjian took the cloud dragon materials to the forge. He returned, beaming with joy, presenting 3 items. The red sword, a mid-grade spirit flying sword with a built-in sword shield. It can travel 1,000 miles in an instant. The Xuanwu shield, a low-grade spirit tool with incredible defensive power. And finally, the bright blue cloud sprinkling robe, a top-grade magic tool made specifically for me. It can accelerate the gathering of water element chi and store it in a crisis. It can instantly generate a massive amount of mist. Combined with the cloud soaring evasion technique, it's perfect for escaping. Even better, it functions as a spirit gathering array. It turned out Chen Jinjian had used the cloud dragon claws to play hard to get, with a tier 2 artisan to obtain these. I gave him a big thumbs up. Impressive. Truly impressive. However, we didn't know that in a certain courtyard in the market, people were already plotting against us. 12 families were attending the auction, but there were only 7 century tokens. 2 uninvited guests had also joined. We'll eliminate the weak ones first, but doing that violates the sex regulations. Don't worry, we have our people in the law enforcement hall. Besides, we won't be the only ones making a move. Early the next morning, I put on the cloud sprinkling robe and met Chen Jinjian at the inn. He was also dressed sharply, his silver hair tied into a Taoist bun. He used the red sword as a hairpin. We shared a knowing smile. We couldn't afford to lose the battle of presents. We headed straight for the market. An envoy from the Danding sect named Zhou Siming led us onto a flying beast. We chatted and laughed as we took to the sky. As we were about to reach the Danding sect's gate, I noticed the flying beast wasn't heading toward the buildings, but toward a desolate mountain swamp. Zhou Siming explained that the swamp was an illusion and the gate was behind it, but Chen Jinjian and I exchanged a look. That's enough. Thank you, fellow Taoist, Zhou, for the ride. We'll take it from here. Before Zhou Siming could react, I stepped off and went into a free fall. The red sword on Chen Jinjian's head let out a hum, transforming into a red streak of light that caught me as we sped down. This was a trap designed to make us late. Without a pass, we wouldn't make it to the auction in time if we entered the illusion. Luckily, I reacted fast enough. Chen Jinjian caught me mid-air, and we both landed on the red sword before reaching the stone path below. A pair of red-robed disciples with swords rushed over and questioned us. I showed them the invitation and explained the situation. Zhou Ximing arrived and was chewed out by the patrol captain. With a dark expression, he led us to the outer affairs hall. Who would have thought that at the side gate of the outer affairs hall, we'd be blocked by a white-robed disciple who insisted on taking our invitation before letting us in. Chen Jinjian tried to offer a bottle of pills, but the man crushed it under his foot. Hey, I said, I want the invitation. This wasn't just a simple hard time. The man was acting with total impunity. He must have a powerful backer. I had a thought and deliberately began to argue loudly. As the crowd grew larger and the timing was just right, I pulled the golden-ringed spirit earthworm from my spirit insect bag and threw it on the ground. Stop. A voice thundered like a lightning bolt. A long-bearded elder instantly appeared before me and snatched the earthworm. With a look of lingering fear, he said, "Thank goodness I made it in time, otherwise, you would have ruined such a treasure. You've made a mess of things." The gatekeeper's face turned pale. "Greetings. Adept Lingshan." "Greetings. Adept Lingshan." "Adept Lingshen." The hall master of the law enforcement hall of the Danding sect. A golden core powerhouse. As expected. He's brought a storm with him, I thought to myself, feeling smug. Adept Ling Shen was just about to take us away when a voice spoke. "Let's go together." A gentle female voice rang out. Wait, who said they weren't attending the auction? An elegant and noble lady floated down from the 6th floor of the Wanwu Hall. It was Adept Qiangshan of the Danding sect, another golden core powerhouse. After a brief exchange between the two adepts, Adept Lingshan asked me directly, "How many spirit earthworms do you have?" There seemed to be 2 in the nest. Before the words over 10 feet long could even leave my mouth, Adept Lingshen, disregarding his status, released his power. His mana condensed into a giant golden palm. Reaching for the spirit insect pouch at my waist, Adept Qiangshan countered it with a flash of blue light. "Senior brother, you're being too obsessive." Adept Lingshen, after all, he was a master. He quickly regained his composure and prepared to leave. Before departing, he gave me a deeply meaningful look. That look made my heart tremble. Just then, a familiar voice called out tentatively, "Brother Chen, Brother Chen." It really was him. I looked up to see Manager Lu. He had been transferred back to the outer 5th hall. Seeing that, I didn't deny it. He was overjoyed. Adept Qiangshan asked about our relationship. After learning of our connection, she gave instructions for the auction to begin. The auction was starting. Members of 9 different cultivation families were in the hall. They were all shocked beyond words to see 2 Golden Core adepts personally accompanying us inside. Manager Liu, in particular, his heart was filled with regret. If I had known Zhao Shang was him, why would I have ever? At the auction, Chen Qing and I took our seats. He was filled with regret. If I had known Zhao Shang was him, why would I have ever? At the auction, after Chen Jing and I sat down, the others saw that I didn't object, so they didn't dare to compete. An hour later, 3 spirit veins had been auctioned off. It was time for the 4th item, the high-grade Tier 1 spirit vein of Taiwu Mountain. I stood up. I said calmly, "I'll take this spirit vein. I'll take this spirit vein." The Wan family of Wanyu Mountain looked like they'd just lost their parents. That was the auspicious site they had carefully selected. The Shen family of Shenan was even worse off. They hadn't managed to win a single spirit vein. Manager Lu didn't even spare them a glance. Who told them to provoke someone they shouldn't have? After the auction, Adept Qiangshan met with me privately. I took the initiative to hand over the 12 golden ring spirit earthworms I had hidden. One of them was over 30 feet long, nearly reaching Tier 2. Its chance of transforming into a dragon was as high as 1% for a golden core adept. Even a 1% chance was worth risking everything. After Adept, Qiangshan accepted the spirit insects. She asked if I had any requests. I tested the waters. This junior doesn't dare to ask for much. I only hope the adept can bestow an alchemy scripture. You certainly are bold. In the end, she gave me a notebook of her alchemy insights. It contained over a dozen pill recipes and her personal analysis. Though not a complete scripture, it was enough. It was enough to provide the Chen family with a legacy of alchemy. When I came out, I intentionally waved the notebook in front of Manager Lu. I vaguely described it as Adept Qiangshan's personal notes. I'm well versed in the art of borrowing someone's authority to intimidate others. It works like a charm every time. Sure enough, the way Manager Lu looked at me completely changed. He volunteered to accompany me to Taiwu Mountain to take over the spirit vein. 5 days later, everything was settled. We boarded the Banyu cloud boat for the return journey. 5 days later, As we watched the boat take flight, Chen Jinjian suddenly burst into laughter. I was caught up in his joy and let out a bright smile. Once we had our fill of laughter, I composed myself and said in a low voice, "Let's go. The big show at Longley Lake has already begun. If we don't hurry, we'll miss the finale." Chen Jinjian's expression turned serious. "The big show over there has already begun. If we don't hurry, we'll miss the finale." Chen Jinjian's expression turned serious. Some people are making a real scene. When disaster strikes, it's every man for himself. That's just how it is. 10 miles east of Longley Lake, in the city, the atmosphere was exceptionally heavy. A month ago, news came down from Tongxin Hall. The Ziyang sect would reclaim Longley Lake in 1 year. They demanded that the Chen family move out. This news was like a bolt from the blue. After 300 years, the clan members had long considered Longley Lake their ancestral home. Now, being told they had to leave, no one could accept it. No one could accept it. Under Lin Zixuan's influence, the members of the second branch were dead set on moving to the Weishan Sea. The Ziyang sect's new overseas branch was short on people. The first branch, however, was adamantly opposed. Inside Tongxin Hall on Yanyue Island, the two sides were at each other's throats. All 27 cultivators were present, along with over a dozen elders from the secular branches of the family. Lin Zixuan, the Ziyang sect's representative, was also present. Chen Jinggang walked to the center of the hall, his back hunched. "Everyone is here. I have a major announcement to make." Chen Keqiang stood up to object, but he was silenced with a single sentence. Chen Jinding confronted him, but was backed into a corner by Chen Jinggang's words. Chen Jinggang's rhetoric left him speechless. What shocked everyone even more was that Chen Jinggang had already accepted the Ziyang sect's migration edict on behalf of the family. Once accepted, there is no turning back. There is no going back otherwise. Our house will be destroyed. Clan leader Chen Jinding's fingers trembled. "Must you drive the clan to a dead end? Before you stop, tell me then, what brilliant plan do you have? Are we to just watch? As the Chen family splinters apart, our masters become rogue cultivators, or can you only, like a mad dog, bark like that?" Chen Jinding's face turned ashen from the questioning. Then, Chen Jinpeng also jumped in to chime in, boasting of the star fragment C's benefits. The clansmen in the hall began to waver. Just then, the doors of Red Star Hall were burst open from the outside. Of the benefits, the clansmen began to waver. Just then, at this moment, at the Red Star Hall doors, pushed open from the outside, followed by pushed open from the outside, with a flurry of footsteps. I and Chen Jinjian's figures appeared before their eyes. The clan leader he actually came back. Some were joyful, some were shocked, and some were shocked, while others sneered with cold mockery. I ignored the cold mockery and walked to Chen Jinding, standing before him, second uncle. "We are back." Chen Jinding, "We are back." Chen Jinding looked at me, then looked at me, then looked at the transformed face of Chen Jinjian. His voice slightly. Jinjian's voice trembled. "Jinjian. He succeeded." I nodded with a smile. Chen Jinjian took a step forward and unleashed his foundation establishment aura. The crimson sword soared to the sky, its glow burning and surging by 3 feet. Like lightning, it circled the hall thrice and hovered above his head. Foundation aura enveloped everyone's hearts, trembling. In the Chen family's hour of crisis, to think a foundation establishment master has emerged. The ancestors have manifested. At this time, Chen Jinpeng suddenly, with a flushed face, rushed toward Chen Jian, shouting in excitement, cousin, "You are my cousin." Chen Jinjian. He and Chen Jinjian were the closest cousins. Their fathers were biological brothers. Chen Jin were biological brothers. Chen Jian looked at the excited old man before him, remembering he was indeed his cousin. He nodded. So it is old 6. We brothers for decades have not met. When today's matter is over, let us catch up properly. Aye, cousin is right, Chen. Jinpeng echoed repeatedly, and his spine instantly straightened further. Chen Jinggang suddenly coughed twice. His old face squeezed out a smile. "Old fourth. You Squeezed a smile. When did you promote to foundation? Such a great event. Why not inform the family sooner? The family sooner, third brother, compared to the clans. Signing for the Star Fragment C. My promotion to foundation is nothing at all. Chen Jinjian's expression turned cold. With just one sentence. He took the lead. Nothing at all. Chen Jinjian's expression turned cold. With just one sentence. He clearly stated his position as the city's only foundation, cultivator. His words carried immense weight, immediately swaying the majority's stance. In the second row, standing in the crowd, Lin Zi Chuan stopped talking and gave Chen Kechin a meaningful look. Chen Kechin sighed inwardly and had to brace himself to step forward for the sake of Lin Zishuan's promised foundation pill. He must give his all. Congratulations to fourth uncle on your promotion. You returned just in time. The clan migration should be presided over by you. Chen Jinjian laughed Kechin. I haven't seen you for decades. Seen you. You are still like when you were young. Always playing mind games. When did I agree? Always playing mind games. When did I agree? To this matter, fourth uncle, you may not be clear. No need to say more. The causes and effects. I know them well. Giving away that massive amount of spirit stones made him feel like he was going crazy. He felt like he was losing his mind. He gently clutched his old face, revealing a terrifying expression, looking just like a vengeful ghost. Chen Kekin's heart sank the moment he saw this. At the same time, Lin Zishuan noticed the shift in momentum. Something's wrong. He cursed inwardly. What a bunch of trash. He pushed aside the people blocking his way, swaggered right up to us, and said with a warm smile, Congratulations, fellow Taoist Chen, on advancing to the foundation establishment realm. The Chen family has secured another 200 years of destiny. Truly worth celebrating. I wouldn't dare. Fellow Taoist Lin is a top disciple of the Ziyang sect and a senior in the foundation establishment realm. I wouldn't dare accept your congratulations. The Chen family acquiring a new territory in the southern frontier is indeed a good thing. But I have a few words I must get off my chest. I wonder if you'd be willing to hear me out. Senior Lin, please speak your mind. I replied with a smile. I had already seen through it. The one who instigated the second branch to move to the Shattered Star Sea was Lin Zishuan. However, his actions vaguely aligned with a certain plan of mine. Lin Zishuan gave me a pointed look, thinking to himself that it was this young punk who had ruined his schemes a few years ago. But this time was different. This was an open scheme, and open schemes are the hardest to break. The Ziyang sect establishing a branch in the Shattered Star Sea was an unstoppable trend. Your Chen family might have obtained a spirit land, but it's only 100-year reprieve. A century from now, you'll face today's situation all over again. When that time comes, you'll definitely face today's situation all over again. When that time comes, where will you move to? If you move to the Shattered Star Sea, the situation will be entirely different. Patriarch Tianyang, the founder of our Tianyang sword sect, personally promised that any family that occupies a spirit vein island will own it forever. Wouldn't the permanent ownership of a spirit vein be countless times better than constantly worrying about the 100-year edict being revoked? I have to admit, his eloquence was impressive. In just a few words, he completely turned the tide. Chen Jinjian immediately retorted, The Shattered Star Sea is swarming with demonic cultivators and sea beasts. My Chen family is weak and thin in numbers, and we aren't good at fighting. No matter how good the spirit island is, we need to be alive to enjoy it. You're exaggerating. When my patriarch Tianyang reached the nascent soul realm, he ventured into the Shattered Star Sea alone with his sword. For 30 years, Aeromed, across millions of miles of ocean, conquering a vast maritime territory with over 1,000 spirit islands. Today, the Tianyang sword sect has been established, boasting one nascent soul patriarch, over 3 golden core Taoists, and dozens of foundation establishment sword cultivators. With such formidable power holding the fort, who would dare offend us? Moreover, if you were to move to the Shattered Star Sea, you'd be among the first batch of founding families. Wealth and danger go hand in hand. The earlier you go, the greater the benefits. These words moved quite a few people. Immediately after, Lin Zishuan added fuel to the fire. My Tianyang sword sect was founded less than 5 years ago. and we are currently recruiting a large batch of disciples. I can make the call and grant your Chen family 2 outer sect disciple quotas, with the spirit root requirement relaxed to 4 attribute spirit roots. This was something he added on the spot. By relaxing the standards to 4 attribute spirit roots, he was making a calculated move. A Chen family with a foundation establishment cultivator and one without are 2 entirely different concepts. He had his eyes on Chen Jinjian. The Tianyang sword sect looked glamorous on the surface, but in reality, demonic cultivators constantly caused trouble within their territory. So they desperately needed immortal cultivators to replenish their ranks. Foundation establishment cultivators were the core strength, more than capable of guarding a region of waters. The 2 outer sect disciple quotas caused quite a stir. Large sects like the Ziyang sect required at least a 3 attribute spirit root to take in disciples. For the Tianyang sword sect to graciously lower the threshold was a once-in-a-century opportunity. I knew exactly what Lin Zixuan was scheming, and I thought to myself, I'm sorry, but the Chen family's only foundation establishment cultivator cannot go with you to the Shattered Star. See, I decisively unleashed my ultimate move, Senior Lin. This junior is deeply grateful for your generous treatment of my Chen family. However, everyone has their own aspiration, and not everyone is willing to go to the Shattered Star Sea. In my capacity as the current patriarch of the Chen family, I propose those who wish to go to the Shattered Star Sea stand on my left, those willing to go to the southern frontier stand on my right. As soon as these words came out, everyone began whispering to each other. Some people finally realized that I was still the patriarch of the Chen family. Seeing Chen Jinjian following my lead, everyone understood that, from today onwards, the title and power of the patriarch had completely fallen into my hands. Chen Jinggang flew into a rage and yelled, "No way, I absolutely refuse to split the family." He knew very well that once the family split, Chen Jinjian would definitely follow the first branch to the southern frontier. Without a foundation establishment cultivator, the second branch's future would be bleak even if they moved to the Shattered Star Sea. Chen Keichin also chimed in. According to our ancestral teachings, our Chen family cannot be split. I turned a deaf ear to the harsh criticisms and mockery from the second branch members. Their opinions didn't matter. As long as I had the support of Chen, Jinjian, and the first branch, I was determined to split this family. But my proposal had angered Lin Zixuan. He had been secretly plotting for over a decade to force the Chen family into a corner. They had to go to the Shattered Star Sea whether they wanted to or not. Lin Zixuan suddenly clutched his belly. To the Shattered Star Sea. They had to go, whether they wanted to or not. Lin Zixuan suddenly burst into uproarious laughter. Then his laughter abruptly stopped. And he said coldly, "You want to split the family? Did you ask for my permission?" Chen Jinjian stepped forward and questioned, "Splitting the family is a private matter of our Chen family. Why should you have a say?" Lin Zixuan snorted coldly and beckoned to Chen Jinggang with his finger. "Where is the migration edict? Show it to him. Do you think you can just exploit loopholes in my Ziyang sect's migration edict whenever you please?" Chen Jinggang quickly took out the migration edict, a scroll of strange golden leather embroidered with a massive purple sun and the shadow of a 3-legged golden crow. After Chen Jinjian read it, his expression changed slightly, and he passed it to me. I quickly read the document, but my heart relaxed. The immigration edict stated that the Chen family was to relocate to the Crushing Star Sea, but it didn't say they couldn't split up. I dared to propose splitting the family because I had some confidence. I never fight a battle I'm not sure of winning. Since you've accepted the immigration edict, don't think you can play any tricks," Lin Zixuan said viciously. Chen Jinggang chimed in with a pleased expression. Chen Keichin also took the opportunity to attack me for having ill intentions. I weighed the immigration edict in my hand, looked at the people from the second branch, then at Lin Zixuan, and suddenly asked with a smile, "Senior Lin, does your esteemed sect have a new Golden Core True Lord named Yu? Qing Han Shi, like you, Senior, is also a sword cultivator." Hearing this, Lin Zixuan's heart pounded. Yue Qing Han, a mutated spirit root, a prodigy of the sword path, a direct disciple of the Tianyang ancestor. She rose to prominence in the Crushing Star Sea 100 years ago. Before the age of 16, she was just an ordinary fisherman's daughter. After being taken in as a closed-door disciple by the Tianyang ancestor, her peerless talent was revealed. At 30, She reached the peak of chi refinement and achieved foundation establishment in the same year. She entered the Golden Core realm before she was 100. 5 years ago. She advanced to the late stage of the Golden Core realm and returned to the Ziyang sect. In the Ziyang Grand Competition, with a single heart-washing sword, she challenged the 13 peaks, successively defeating 9 of her Golden Core peers. With her heart-washing sword, she challenged the 13 peaks, successively defeating 9 of her Golden Core peers, and won the title of Guanghan Sword Immortal. Lin Zixuan took a few deep breaths, his voice trembling slightly. Why do you ask? Could it be that you know my grandaunt? I took out the jade sword from my storage bag and waved it in front of him. Do you recognize this jade sword? His eyes widened. It was clearly identical to the sword pendant on Yue Qinghan's dress. The sword intent emanating from it was also extremely similar to the heart-slaying sword intent of the Yue clan's ancestral line. Where did you get this jade sword? I smiled faintly. You can go back and ask True Lord Yue. Ask her if she remembers the young friend surnamed Chen from Tanzu Mountain all those years ago. Lin Zixuan's heart pounded. He no longer dared to underestimate me, until he figured out my relationship with Yue Qinghan. He would not act rashly. Fine. I'll remember what you said. When I get back, I will ask Grandaunt Yu for confirmation. Senior, feel free to ask. Also, I didn't see any clause in the immigration edict that forbids splitting the family. What is not forbidden by law is permissible. Therefore, our Chen family splitting up does not violate the rules. Lin Zixuan gave me a deep look and no longer mentioned his earlier threats. Compared to Yu Qinghan's attitude, a small matter of the Chen family bending the rules was nothing. Lin Zixuan left, very decisively, completely ignoring the desperate pleas of the second branch members. Having lost their backer, Chen Jinggang and Chen Kikin could no longer stop the great matter of splitting the family. And so, under the supervision of Chen Jinjian, the entire Chen clan of Dragoncarp Lake, with its 50,000 members, began the momentous process of splitting the family and its assets. Those who wanted to go to the Crushing Star Sea stood on one side, and those who were willing to go to the southern border stood on the other. There was also a considerable portion who did not want to leave Dragoncarp Lake. To the latter, I stated clearly that for all Cultivator clan members, their direct relatives within 5 generations could freely choose whether to leave Dragoncarp Lake and go to the Crushing Star Sea or the southern border. The choice was theirs.